The interdimensional rift tore through the fabric of reality above Times Square at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and everything changed. It started as a shimmer, like heat waves rising from summer asphalt, except this was 40 stories up and growing. Tourists with their phones captured the sky peeling open like a wound, revealing something beyond, a swirling vortex of green and violet energy that didn't belong in any universe governed by the known laws of physics. Then came the screaming. Something massive fell through. Not fell, was thrown. A green-finned figure in tattered remains of what might have been a police uniform crashed through the rift, trailing arcs of crackling energy. He plummeted toward the street below, toward the thousands of people who'd stopped to stare at the impossible thing happening above their heads. Malcolm Dragon had exactly 2.3 seconds to assess his situation. Unknown city, wrong reality, terminal velocity, hundreds of potential casualties below. His healing factor would let him survive the impact. The people underneath him wouldn't. He twisted midair, grabbed a flagpole jutting from a building, and used the momentum to swing himself toward the glass facade of the Reuters building. The windows exploded inward as 700 pounds of muscle and bone crashed through, tumbling across an office floor of screaming employees. Dragon rolled to his feet, glass shards falling from his shoulders, and sprinted back to the shattered window. The rift was collapsing, but something else was coming through. They looked like the fiend from Chicago, tentacled nightmares from some prehistoric hell, but wrong, corrupted. These things pulsed with the same energy as the rift, reality itself seeming to reject their presence. 3 of them, each the size of a city bus, dropped into Times Square and immediately began tearing into anything that moved. Dragon didn't hesitate. He leaped from the broken window, falling 4 stories, and hit the pavement hard enough to crack concrete. A woman in a business suit stood frozen 5 feet away, paralyzed with terror as one of the creatures bore down on her. Dragon was there in 2 strides, intercepting a tentacle thick as a telephone pole. The impact would have liquefied a normal human. Dragon's fingers dug into alien flesh, and he wrenched sideways, redirecting the strike into the street instead. "Run," he bellowed. The screaming masses found their legs. What followed was chaos measured in seconds that felt like hours. Dragon moved through Times Square like a green-finned missile, intercepting attacks, hurling cars to create barriers, using his body as a shield for anyone too slow or too shocked to flee. His fists pulverized alien anatomy. His durability absorbed strikes that would have collapsed buildings. Blood, his and theirs, painted the intersection of Broadway and 7th Avenue. Above it all, the rift continued to collapse. Dragon could feel it, a pulling sensation, like the universe itself was trying to spit out the foreign contamination. The creatures felt it too. They were destabilizing, their forms beginning to phase in and out of reality. Dragon grabbed the nearest, one by what approximated a throat, and squeezed until something vital ruptured. It dissolved into particles of fading light. The second creature tried to flee back toward the rift, but Dragon was faster. He leaped, caught it mid-ascent, and drove it into the ground with enough force to shatter the street down to the subway tunnels below. The third one was smarter. It went for hostages. A city bus had stopped mid-evacuation, passengers jamming the exits in panic. The creature's tentacles wrapped around the vehicle and lifted it like a toy. Dragon heard the screams, children's screams, and something primal ignited in his chest. He'd been a cop, a protector. It didn't matter what universe he was in. Some instincts transcended dimensional barriers. Dragon charged, building momentum, and launched himself at the creature with every ounce of strength his enhanced physiology could generate. The impact separated the creature from the bus. Dragon caught the vehicle before it could drop, muscles screaming under the weight, and gently lowered it to the ground. The creature recovered, tentacles whipping toward him in a frenzy of alien rage. This time Dragon didn't hold back. He tore into it with the efficiency of someone who'd fought monsters for years, who understood that hesitation got people killed. 30 seconds later, it was over. The creature dissolved like its companions, and the rift above Times Square sealed itself with a sound like thunder running backward. Silence fell over the square. Dust and debris settled. Emergency sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Dragon stood in the center of the carnage, chest heaving, blood dripping from a dozen wounds that were already healing. He looked around at the faces staring at him from behind overturned cars and storefronts. Fear, awe, confusion. The same mix he'd seen 1,000 times in Chicago. Then he noticed something that made his cop instincts flare. Cameras. Dozens of them. Not just tourist phones, professional rigs, news crews, even what looked like security drones hovering at strategic angles. They'd captured everything. Ladies and gentlemen, a smooth voice echoed across the square from speakers Dragon couldn't locate. What you've just witnessed is the newest face of American heroism. Dragon's head snapped up. On every screen in Times Square, and there were hundreds, the same image appeared. A logo he didn't recognize. A stylized V with wings. Below it, text scrolled. Vought International presents your newest guardian. Who the hell? Dragon started. A woman in an expensive suit emerged from a black SUV that had somehow arrived without Dragon noticing. She was flanked by security in tactical gear, all wearing the same winged logo. Her smile was practiced, professional, and didn't reach her eyes. "Mister," she prompted. "Dragon. Officer Malcolm Dragon, Chicago PD." The title felt hollow here, wherever here was. "Officer Dragon." She extended a hand he didn't take. "My name is Madeline Stillwell, and on behalf of Vought International, I want to personally thank you for your heroic actions today. You've saved countless lives. I want answers. Where am I? What was that rift? How do I get back to?" "All excellent questions," Stillwell interrupted smoothly, "which I'm absolutely prepared to answer. But perhaps not in the street, surrounded by cameras." She gestured to the growing crowd of news crews pressing closer. "We have a facility nearby. Medical attention for your injuries, a chance to clean up, and information about your situation. I think you'll find Vought can be very helpful to people with your unique gifts." Dragon looked at his hands. The blood was already drying, the wounds beneath already closed. He looked at the screens showing his face, his actions, broadcast to what he was beginning to suspect was a much larger audience than just Times Square. He looked at Stillwell's smile and the security team's hands resting casually near their weapons. His instincts screamed trap. But he was in an unknown city, in what was clearly an unknown universe, with no resources and no way home. He needed information. He needed to understand what he'd fallen into. "Lead the way," Dragon said carefully. "But I'm not signing anything." Stillwell's smile widened. "Of course not. We're just here to help." As Dragon followed her to the SUV, he caught sight of one last screen. On it, a blond man in a blue suit with a cape watched the footage of Dragon's arrival. Even through the digital medium, Dragon could see it in his eyes. Interest. Assessment. Threat evaluation. The man's smile looked even less genuine than Stillwell's. Dragon had fought monsters in Chicago. Aliens, supervillains, corrupt officials, interdimensional nightmares. He'd seen the worst humanity had to offer. But something about that smile on the screen made his healing factor work overtime, preparing for wounds he hadn't received yet. The SUV doors closed. The screens went dark. And somewhere in Vought Tower, Homelander replayed the footage of the green-finned stranger and calculated exactly how long it would take to kill him. If you want to see more crossover stories bringing comic book legends into unexpected universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when Dragon meets the Seven. The Vought Tower conference room occupied the 73rd floor and commanded a view of Manhattan that probably cost more than Dragon's entire Chicago precinct building. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Minimalist furniture that screamed expensive. A table so polished Dragon could see his reflection, still covered in dried blood and interdimensional residue, looking exactly like what he was, a cop way out of his jurisdiction. Madeline Stillwell sat across from him, flanked by two assistants who hadn't spoken a word since the elevator ride up. Between them sat a tablet displaying what Dragon assumed was his immediate future, rendered in corporate PowerPoint efficiency. You've been unconscious for approximately 4 hours, Stillwell began, which was news to Dragon. Minor sedative in the water we offered you. Standard procedure when dealing with unknown, enhanced individuals. I apologize for the deception, but I'm sure you understand security protocols. Dragon's jaw tightened. They'd drugged him, studied him while he was out. His healing factor had already processed whatever they'd used, but the violation remained. You just admitted to assault and illegal detention. We admitted to protecting American citizens from a potential interdimensional threat. Stillwell corrected smoothly. Our medical team confirms you're not carrying any harmful pathogens. Your cellular structure is fascinating, by the way. The regenerative capabilities alone. Cut the sales pitch, Dragon interrupted. Where am I? What happened to the rift? How do I get home? Stillwell's smile never wavered. You're in New York City, Earth. But not your Earth, we suspect. Our dimensional physics team analyzed the residual energy from your arrival. The rift was a one-way collapse. Whatever experiment or phenomenon brought you here, the door closed behind you. The words hit harder than any of the tentacled creatures had. Dragon kept his expression neutral. Cop face. The one he perfected over years of delivering bad news to families. But inside, something cold settled in his chest. Stranded. Your team, Dragon said carefully, they have experience with dimensional rifts? We have experience with enhanced individuals of all varieties, Stillwell replied, which wasn't an answer. Vought International has been at the forefront of superhero development and management for decades. We're uniquely positioned to help you navigate your situation. Superhero development, Dragon repeated. You manufacture heroes? We partner with exceptional individuals. One of the assistants interjected, a man with slicked back hair and a smile that probably worked better on stockholders. Provide resources, training, public relations support. In return, these heroes protect American interests, both domestic and abroad. Dragon had dealt with enough corporate doublespeak to translate. They owned their heroes. Controlled them. The setup smelled wrong, like evidence planted at a crime scene. Too neat, too convenient. And you want to partner with me, Dragon said. We want to help you, Stillwell corrected. You're stranded in an unfamiliar world with no resources, no identity in our system, no way to support yourself. Vought can provide all of that. Housing, a salary, legal documentation, and most importantly, she leaned forward, access to our research division. If there's any way to reopen that rift and send you home, our scientists will find it. There it was. The hook. The thing he wanted most, dangled like bait. In exchange for what? Join the 7, Stillwell said, and tapped the tablet. The screen filled with images. 7 individuals in elaborate costumes, striking heroic poses that looked professionally photographed. America's premier superhero team. You'd work alongside the finest enhanced individuals on the planet, respond to threats, save lives, essentially what you did in Times Square, but with proper support and coordination. Dragon studied the faces. The blond man from the screen, identified as Homelander, stood center, flanked by 6 others. Queen Maeve in her armor, the deepened scales and Atlantean aesthetics. A-Train in racing stripes, translucent, barely visible. Black Noir, completely obscured. And a younger woman with a star on her chest, Starlight, according to the caption. You already have 7 members, Dragon observed. Lamplighter retired recently, the male assistant explained. Starlight is his replacement, but we're always looking for exceptional talent. Your actions today demonstrated exactly the kind of heroism the 7 represents. Dragon's bullshit detector was screaming. He'd seen recruitment pitches before. Gangs, corrupt cops, protection rackets all used variations of the same script. Help, resources, belonging, all wrapped around a core of control. But he was stranded. No home, no badge, no jurisdiction. And if they really did have scientists who could find a way back, I want to meet them first, Dragon said. The 7. Before I agree to anything. Stillwell's smile suggested she'd expected exactly that response. Of course. They're actually gathering now. Homelander specifically requested to meet you. The Seven's conference room made the previous one look modest. Everything was designed to impress, to intimidate, to remind visitors exactly how powerful the people in this room were. The table was shaped like their logo. Each chair bore a hero's emblem. Trophies and commendations lined the walls. Awards Dragon suspected were purchased rather than earned. 5 of the 7 were present when Dragon entered. Homelander stood at the head of the table, cape draped perfectly, smile locked in place like a weapon ready to fire. Queen Maeve sat to his right, looking bored. A-Train drummed his fingers at superhuman speed, nervous energy or threat display. Dragon couldn't tell. The Deep occupied a corner seat, eyes unfocused. Black Noir stood motionless near the window, silent as a shadow. Starlight was absent. Officer Dragon. Homelander's voice filled the room with practiced enthusiasm. The hero of Times Square. Come in, come in. We've been watching your footage on repeat. Incredible work out there. Truly inspiring. Dragon stayed near the door, instincts keeping him close to the exit. Homelander. Please call me John. The smile widened. We're all friends here. All heroes. That's what we do, right? Save people. Protect the innocent. Make the world a better place. Each word was delivered like a line from a script, perfectly rehearsed. That's what I try to do, Dragon said carefully. And you do it so well. Homelander moved around the table with unsettling speed. Not quite superhuman, but close. He stopped just inside Dragon's personal space. Up close, his eyes were ice blue and completely empty of warmth. The way you prioritized civilian safety, used yourself as a shield, even caught that bus. That's old-school heroism, the kind of thing people don't see much anymore. It's the job, Dragon replied. I was a cop. Protection is kind of the point. Was, Homelander repeated, latching onto the past tense. But you're not in Chicago anymore, officer. You're here, in our world, playing by our rules. The smile never wavered, but something predatory flickered behind his eyes. Madeline tells me you're considering joining our team. Considering, Dragon emphasized. Smart. Due diligence. I respect that. Homelander turned to the others. What do you think, team? Should we make room for a genuine hero? Queen Maeve looked up from her phone. He handled himself well. Better than most. Dude strong, A-Train added, still drumming. Took hits that would have pancaked normal people. Could be useful. The Deep said nothing, still staring at nothing. Black Noir remained motionless. See, Homelander spread his arms. Unanimous approval. We'd love to have you, Malcolm. May I call you Malcolm? He didn't wait for an answer. You'd fit right in. Same values, same mission. We protect people. We're the good guys. Dragon's cop instincts were howling now. Everything about this felt staged. The enthusiasm was too forced, the camaraderie too scripted. These weren't teammates, they were coworkers who barely tolerated each other. And Homelander. Dragon had arrested enough sociopaths to recognize the patterns. The manufactured charm. The need for control masked as friendship. The way his smile never quite reached those dead eyes. I appreciate the offer, Dragon said. But I need time to think. This is a lot to process. New world, no way home, job offers from people I just met. The temperature in the room dropped. Homelander's smile remained, but something shifted in his posture. Of course. Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere. He moved closer again, close enough that Dragon could smell expensive cologne and something else. Ozone, maybe, or ionized air. Just remember, Malcolm, in this world, you're either with the Seven or you're just another metahuman without a safety net. And metahumans without protection tend to have accidents. It wasn't quite a threat, but it was not a threat either. I'll keep that in mind, Dragon said evenly. I'm sure you will. Homelander's hand landed on Dragon's shoulder. Too hard, too long, a reminder of strength held barely in check. Madeline will set you up with temporary accommodations. Take a few days. See the city. Get your bearings. When you're ready to accept reality, we'll be here. Dragon left the conference room, with Homelander's eyes burning into his back. As the door closed, he heard A-Train's voice. Think he'll sign? Homelander's response was too quiet to make out, But Queen Maeve's bitter laugh carried clearly. He will. They all do eventually. In the elevator descending from Vought Tower, Dragon caught his reflection in the polished steel doors. He looked tired, lost, alone. He'd faced monsters, survived wars, rebuilt his life more times than he could count. But this was different. This wasn't his world. These weren't his people. And everything about Vought International screamed corruption wrapped in patriotic branding. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. Madeline Stillwell waited with another practiced smile and a folder containing his new identity. Malcolm Dragon, Vought consultant. Temporary resident status pending. The penthouse suite is yours for the next week, she said. After that, we'll need to discuss more permanent arrangements. Dragon took the folder. And if I decide not to join? Stillwell's smile finally showed teeth. Then you're an undocumented enhanced individual in a post-9/11 world, Mr. Dragon. I'm sure you understand how that could become complicated. She walked away, heels clicking on marble floors, leaving Dragon alone in a lobby full of Vought propaganda, posters of the Seven, TVs playing highlight reels of heroic rescues, merchandise displays selling action figures and lunchboxes. His phone, a burner Vought had provided, buzzed. Unknown number. Dragon almost ignored it. Then curiosity won. The text was brief. You looked uncomfortable up there. We should talk. Someone who sees Vought for what it really is. Huey. Dragon stared at the message. He didn't know anyone named Huey. But someone had been watching. Someone else who saw through the corporate veneer. He pocketed the phone and headed for the exit. Outside, New York City stretched in all directions, alien and familiar all at once. Somewhere in this sprawling metropolis were answers. Truth beneath the propaganda. And if there was one thing Malcolm Dragon knew how to do, it was investigate. The hunt had just begun. The bar was called Renegade, and it sat in a part of Lower Manhattan that tourism brochures carefully avoided. Dragon found it 2 days after the text message, following breadcrumbs left by someone who clearly knew how to stay off Vaught's radar. The dive was the kind of place cops and criminals both frequented. Neutral ground where questions didn't get asked and cameras mysteriously malfunctioned. Dragon pushed through the door at 11 p.m. The interior smelled like stale beer, regret, and secrets people paid to keep buried. At the bar sat a figure Dragon recognized from the Seven's conference room, though he looked nothing like the confident hero from the promotional materials. The Deep, still in his scaled suit, but with the cowl pulled back, nursed what was clearly not his first whiskey. His eyes were red-rimmed and unfocused. Dragon took the stool beside him. The bartender, a woman with prison tattoos and the eyes of someone who'd seen everything, gave Dragon a measuring look. Water, Dragon ordered. And whatever he's having regrets, the bartender said, but poured anyway. The Deep didn't look up. You're the new guy. The green cop from another dimension. His words slurred slightly. Malcolm Dragon. Vaught's latest acquisition. Haven't signed anything yet, Dragon replied. You will. The Deep drained his glass. They always find the pressure point. The thing you can't walk away from. For you, it's probably the promise they'll find a way home. He laughed bitterly. Spoiler alert, they won't. They'll string you along forever, just productive enough to keep you hoping, never successful enough to lose their leverage. Dragon studied him. Up close, the Deep looked hollow, a shell wearing a superhero costume. You want to tell me why you're drunk in a dive bar instead of wherever the Seven hang out? Because the Seven don't give a shit about each other, the Deep snapped. We're products. Brands. Homelander's the flagship, Maeve's the feminist angle. I'm the diversity hire who talks to fish. We're not a team. We're a marketing department that occasionally stops crime when the cameras are rolling. That's pretty cynical. That's pretty honest. The Deep signaled for another pour. You seem like a decent guy, Dragon. Actual cop. Actual hero. You don't belong here. In this world, heroes are manufactured. Compound V in a syringe, instant powers, add water, and stir. The origin stories? All bullshit. The rescues? Half of them are staged. The whole thing is a lie wrapped in a cape. Dragon felt something cold settle in his gut. Compound V. The Deep's eyes widened slightly, a drunk man realizing he'd said too much. Forget I mentioned that. Forget I said anything. I'm just drunk and bitter because he stopped, jaw clenching. Because I fucked up everything that mattered, and now I'm stuck playing the fish guy in the world's most expensive theater production. What did you fuck up? The Deep's laugh was caustic. You really want the sordid details? Fine. I assaulted a teammate. Starlight. The new girl. She wanted to be a hero, actually believed in the mission, and He couldn't finish. I'm a piece of shit wearing a hero costume. And Vought covered it up because my brand integration with aquatic conservation, messaging, polls, well with coastal demographics. Dragon's fist clenched. He'd put men in jail for what the Deep was describing. She reported it to Madeline, who made it disappear. Threatened Starlight's career, her family, everything. Welcome to Vought, where the only thing that matters is the stock price and the quarterly earnings call. The Deep met Dragon's eyes. So when they offer you everything, when Madeline smiles and Homelander plays best friend, remember, you're not joining a team. You're joining a corporation that will use you until there's nothing left. Before Dragon could respond, his burner phone buzzed. The same unknown number. Outside. Red hoodie. Don't let anyone follow you. Huey. Dragon stood. You should go home. Sleep this off. Home. The Deep repeated mockingly. Right. The luxury apartment Vought provides, where the cameras watch everything and the walls have ears. Sure, I'll go home. Dragon left cash on the bar and headed for the exit. The Deep's voice followed him. Run while you can, Dragon, before this world turns you into another monster in a cape. Outside, the street was empty except for a young man in a red hoodie pacing nervously near a closed bodega. Early 20s, anxious energy, eyes that kept scanning for threats. When he saw Dragon, relief and fear warred on his face. Malcolm Dragon, the man asked. Huey, Dragon guessed. Huey Campbell. He glanced around. We shouldn't talk here. There's a place a few blocks over. Abandoned subway station. Vought doesn't monitor it. Dragon followed, his cop instincts evaluating the situation. Huey moved like someone used to running, to hiding. His hands shook slightly. Whatever he was involved in, it was dangerous enough to make him paranoid. The subway station was exactly as advertised, abandoned, dark, covered in graffiti that looked years old. But as they descended into the tunnels, Dragon spotted signs of recent occupation. Sleeping bags, food wrappers, a makeshift planning wall covered in photographs, and string connections like something from a detective's conspiracy board. 3 other people waited in the shadows. A scarred man with dead eyes and a British accent spoke first. So this is the interdimensional Boy Scout Huey's been going on about. Billy Butcher, Huey introduced quickly. And that's MM and Frenchie. MM, a massive man with crossed arms and military bearing, gave Dragon an assessing nod. Frenchie, smaller and wired, offered an enthusiastic wave. Huey says you looked uncomfortable at Vought Tower, Butcher continued, circling Dragon like a predator evaluating prey. Says you didn't fall for Homelander's bullshit smile. That true? I've arrested enough sociopaths to recognize the patterns, Dragon replied carefully. Butcher's grin was savage. Good. Then maybe you're not completely fucking useless. He gestured to the conspiracy wall. Welcome to the boys, Dragon. We're the poor bastards trying to expose Vought for what it really is, a criminal enterprise that manufactures supervillains, then sells the superheroes to fight them. Dragon moved closer to the wall. Photographs of the 7 in compromising situations. Financial records showing suspicious transactions. Medical files stamped Compound V classified. News clippings about superhero incidents, with civilian casualties buried in the fine print. And in the center, a photograph of a young woman smiling. Below it, a single word, Robin. Huey's girlfriend, Butcher explained. A train ran through her, literally, turned her into a red smear on the pavement while high on Compound V, running errands for Vought. You know what happened to A-Train? Nothing. Vought paid Huey's settlement, made him sign an NDA, and the whole thing disappeared. Huey's hands were shaking harder now. She was just crossing the street. She didn't do anything wrong. And they act like it never happened. Dragon looked at the young man's grief, at Butcher's calculated rage, at MM's quiet righteousness, and Frenchie's barely controlled chaos. These weren't heroes. They were people broken by a system that treated human lives as collateral damage in a corporate profit scheme. "What do you want from me?" Dragon asked. "We want you to get close to them," Butcher said. "Join the 7, play the hero, earn their trust. Then feed us information. Proof of compound V distribution, evidence of cover-ups, anything that'll bring these cunts down." "You want me to spy?" "We want you to help us save people," MM corrected, voice steady. "Vought's heroes kill more civilians than they save. The only difference between the 7 and the supervillains is better PR. If you're really a cop, if you really believe in protecting people, then help us expose the truth." Dragon studied the wall again. The evidence was damning, scattered, circumstantial in places, but pointing to a pattern of criminal negligence and active cover-ups. In Chicago, this would have been enough for warrants, investigations, arrests. But this wasn't Chicago. And he was starting to understand that this world operated under different rules. "Compound V," Dragon said. The Deep mentioned it. "What is it?" Frenchie stepped forward, excited to explain. "A serum. Injectable. Gives ordinary human superpowers. Vought has been manufacturing heroes for decades, then selling the fantasy that powers are natural, genetic gifts from God. All lies. Every single soup is Vaught's creation. Including Homelander? Especially Homelander," Butcher said. "Test tube baby. Raised in a lab. Never had a mother, never had a childhood. Just Vaught's perfect weapon, trained to smile for cameras and incinerate anyone who threatens corporate interests." Dragon processed this. If true, it explained Homelander's manufactured charm, his barely restrained violence, the emptiness behind his eyes. He wasn't a hero who'd chosen to protect people. He was a product designed to simulate heroism. "Why tell me this?" Dragon asked. "You don't know me. I could go straight to Vought with everything you just said." "You could," Butcher agreed. "But you won't. Because you've already seen through their bullshit. Because you're a real cop and you recognize a criminal operation when you see one. And because," his smile turned predatory, "you're stuck here. No way home. No resources. No allies except the people in this room or the corporation that wants to own you. So the question isn't whether you'll help us. It's whether you're smart enough to pick the right side before Vought turns you into another Deep, drunk, complicit, and hating yourself for it." Dragon was silent for a long moment. He thought about the Deep's confession, about Madeline Stillwell's calculated threats, about Homelander's dead eyes and too perfect smile. He thought about the evidence on the wall and the grief in Huey's voice. He thought about his badge back in Chicago in another dimension, about the oath he'd taken to protect and serve. "I'm not joining you," Dragon said finally. Butcher's expression darkened, but Dragon continued. "I'm not joining the 7 either. I'm going to do what I've always done. Investigate. Find the truth. If Vought is criminal, I'll bring evidence. Real evidence, not conspiracy theories and blurry photographs. But I do it my way, not as your spy." "That's fucking stupid," Butcher growled. "That's being a cop," Dragon countered. "You want to take down Vought? Fine. But I'm not compromising myself or breaking laws to do it. I'll find legal evidence, build a legitimate case, and bring them down the right way." MM spoke up, surprising everyone. "He's right. We've been operating like criminals because we thought it was the only way. But if we want to actually change things, we need someone who can stand in court and testify without getting dismissed as conspiracy theorists." "You want to play by their rules," Butcher said, disgusted. "I want to win," Dragon replied. "And you don't win by becoming what you're fighting against." The silence stretched. Then Huey stepped forward. "I believe him. Robin would have wanted us to do this right." Butcher's jaw clenched, but finally he nodded. "Fine. Do it your way, Boy Scout. But when Vought comes for you, and they will, don't expect us to play nice saving your green arse." "Wouldn't want you to," Dragon said. As he left the abandoned subway station, Dragon felt the weight of what he'd just stepped into. In Chicago, he'd been one cop in a system. Here, he was one-dimensional refugee against a corporate empire that manufactured heroes and crushed anyone who threatened their profits. But he'd faced worse odds before. His phone buzzed. Madeline Stillwell, hope you've had time to think. Homelander would love to discuss your future. Breakfast tomorrow, 8 a.m. Vought Tower. Don't be late. Dragon pocketed the phone and headed into the New York night. Time to find out exactly how deep Vaught's corruption ran, and whether this world had any real heroes left. The breakfast was served on the 99th floor of Vought Tower in a private dining room that probably cost more to decorate than Dragon's entire Chicago apartment building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city waking up below. Millions of people going about their lives, completely unaware of the monsters living above them in capes and corporate suits. Homelander sat at the head of the table, already halfway through a plate of eggs Benedict that he ate with surgical precision. He didn't look up when Dragon entered. "You're 4 minutes late," Homelander said, still focused on his food. "I don't like late." "Traffic," Dragon lied, taking the seat Madeline Stillwell indicated. "There's no traffic at this hour. You walked. I watched you from the window." Homelander finally looked up, and his smile was razor-sharp. "See, Malcolm, I know things. I pay attention. For instance, I know you were in a dive bar in Lower Manhattan 2 nights ago. I know you talked to the Deep, who really needs to learn when to shut his fucking mouth." The profanity slipped out like venom through silk. "And I know you met with some very interesting people in an abandoned subway station." Dragon kept his expression neutral, but internally his instincts screamed danger. "You're having me followed." "I'm protecting my investment," Homelander corrected. "Madeline thinks you're worth courting. I think you're a potential problem. So I've been doing my homework." He set down his fork with deliberate care. "William Butcher, former CIA, obsessed with destroying me specifically because his wife disappeared after I fucked her. Huey Campbell, pathetic little nobody whose girlfriend got splattered by A-Train. Frenchie, the whole sad ensemble of losers who think they can take down Vought with duct tape and conspiracy theories." Stillwell cleared her throat. "Homelander, perhaps we should." "Shut up, Madeline." Homelander didn't even glance at her. His eyes stayed locked on Dragon. "I'm having a conversation with our potential new teammate about the importance of choosing sides. Because here's what you need to understand, Malcolm. This isn't your world. You don't have jurisdiction here. You don't have a badge. You don't have rights. What you have is me, choosing not to throw you back through whatever interdimensional asshole you fell out of." Dragon's fists clenched under the table. "That a threat?" "That's reality." Homelander leaned back, smile returning. "But it doesn't have to be adversarial. Join the 7. Stop entertaining Butcher's fantasies. Help us protect people, real protection, not whatever vigilante justice those terrorists are peddling. In return, Vought continues funding research into dimensional rifts. Everyone wins. Except the people Vought covers for," Dragon said quietly. "Except the civilians who get killed in heroic incidents that disappear from the news cycle. Except everyone who gets in the way of quarterly earnings." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Homelander's smile remained, but something predatory and ancient moved behind his eyes. "You've been listening to the wrong people. Butcher is a liar. Everything he's told you is designed to manipulate you into becoming his weapon against us. The truth is, we save thousands of lives every year. Thousands. Are there occasional mistakes? Sure. Show me any organization that doesn't have complications. But we do more good than harm, and that's what matters." "Is Compound V real?" Dragon asked directly. Stillwell's expression flickered, just for a moment, before her professional mask returned. Homelander's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Where did you hear that term?" Stillwell asked carefully. "Is it real?" Dragon repeated. Homelander stood abruptly, chair scraping against marble. He moved to the windows, cape settling around his shoulders like wings. When he spoke, his voice was conversational, almost friendly. "You want the truth, Malcolm? Fine. Yes. Compound V is real. It's how we create superheroes. We've been doing it for decades. Controlled distribution, careful monitoring, creating the protectors this country desperately needs. You manufacture heroes, Dragon said, processing the admission. Inject people with a serum and give them powers. We elevate exceptional individuals. Stillwell corrected smoothly. Compound V enhances existing potential. It doesn't create something from nothing. Bullshit, Dragon said flatly. You inject civilians, probably children, based on the files Butcher showed me, and turn them into weapons. Then you control them, market them, and profit off the illusion that they're natural-born heroes. Homelander spun, faster than Dragon could track, and suddenly he was inches away. His eyes glowed faintly, heat vision barely restrained. You self-righteous piece of shit. You think you understand this world, because you were a cop in some other dimension? You don't know anything. Those weapons we create, they save lives. They stop terrorists, natural disasters, supervillains that your normal humans couldn't handle. We gave them purpose, power, meaning. You gave them trauma, Dragon countered, refusing to flinch despite every instinct screaming to move away from those glowing eyes. You experimented on kids, turned them into products, and now you own them. We made them gods. Homelander's voice cracked like thunder. Before Compound V, they were nothing. Nobodies. We gave them everything. And yes, we expect loyalty in return. That's not slavery, that's business. That's exactly slavery, Dragon said, dressed up in corporate language and patriotic branding. The heat vision flared brighter. Homelander's hand shot out and grabbed Dragon's throat, lifting him out of the chair. Dragon's healing factor immediately kicked in, repairing the tissue damage as fast as Homelander's grip caused it. I could kill you, Homelander whispered, face inches from Dragon's. Snap your neck, throw you through the window, incinerate you with a glance. I'm the strongest being on this planet. I'm a god, and you're an uninvited guest who's overstaying his welcome. Dragon met his eyes without fear. He'd stared down worse than Homelander, interdimensional warlords, Lovecraftian nightmares, his own inner demons. A lab-grown psychopath in a cape didn't even crack the top 10. Then do it, Dragon said calmly. Kill me. Prove Butcher right. Prove that underneath the smile and the flag, you're just another monster who murders anyone who questions you. The silence stretched. Heat vision flared. Dragon's throat continued burning and healing in an endless cycle of damage and regeneration. Then Homelander laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor, and released him. Dragon dropped back into the chair, hand instinctively going to his throat even though the damage was already healed. I like you, Malcolm, Homelander said, smile returning like a mask clicked back into place. You've got balls. Stupid, suicidal balls, but balls nonetheless. He returned to his seat and resumed eating his now cold eggs like nothing had happened. Here's my counteroffer. Join the 7. Help us maintain order. In exchange, I won't kill everyone you've talked to in the past 72 hours. Butcher, Huey, that bartender with the prison tattoos, even the Deep for running his pathetic mouth. They all live, and you get to play hero in a world that actually appreciates it. Blackmail, Dragon said, voice rough despite the healing. Negotiation, Homelander corrected. You're a cop, right? You understand leverage. I have all of it. You have none. So the smart play is to take the deal, smile for the cameras, and maybe Vought scientists actually do find a way to send you home eventually. Dragon looked at Stillwell, who'd remained silent throughout the exchange. Her expression was carefully neutral, but he could see the calculation behind her eyes. She was already spinning this, already figuring out how to use the situation to Vaught's advantage. I need time, Dragon said finally. No, Homelander replied instantly. You need to decide. Right now. Because I'm done playing recruitment games with some interdimensional nobody. Either you're with us or you're against us. And if you're against us... He smiled, and it was the most genuine expression Dragon had seen from him yet. Well, let's just say this world has a lot of creative ways to make people disappear. Dragon's mind raced. He was outgunned, outmaneuvered, trapped in a world that didn't play by any rules he recognized. Homelander was a sociopath with godlike power and zero accountability. Vought was a corporation that manufactured heroes and crushed dissent. But Dragon had been outgunned before, had faced impossible odds, had survived by being smarter, tougher, and more stubborn than his enemies expected. "I'll join," Dragon said slowly. "On one condition." Homelander's eyes narrowed. "You're not in a position to negotiate." "One condition," Dragon repeated. "I want access to Vaught's research division. Full access. If you're serious about finding a way to send me home, I want to work directly with the scientists. No intermediaries, no restricted files. Complete transparency on the dimensional rift research." It was a gamble. But if Dragon was going to survive in this world, he needed information. And Vaught's research division would have more than just dimensional physics. They'd have files on Compound V, on the Seven's creation, on every dirty secret the corporation was hiding. Stillwell and Homelander exchanged a glance. Some silent communication passed between them. "Fine," Homelander said finally. "You get your research access. Madeline will set it up. Welcome to the Seven, Malcolm." He extended a hand across the table. Dragon took it, even as his instincts screamed that he was making a deal with the devil. Homelander's grip was crushing, deliberately so, and his smile was triumphant. "This is going to be fun. I haven't had a proper teammate in years. Someone who actually challenges me." He leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper only Dragon could hear. "But remember, I'm watching. Always. One wrong move, one hint that you're feeding information to Butcher, and I'll make you watch while I kill everyone you've ever spoken to. Slowly, creatively. And then I'll keep you alive just so you can live with the guilt." He released Dragon's hand and stood, cape swirling dramatically. "Madeline, get him fitted for a costume. Something that screams interdimensional badass. We'll announce him at the charity gala next week. America's going to love their newest hero." Homelander left without another word, moving with the casual confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences for anything in his entire life. Stillwell remained, tablet already out and typing notes. "Congratulations, Malcolm. You've made the right choice." "Have I?" Dragon asked, still feeling Homelander's fingers bruising his throat, bruises that had healed instantly but left a psychological mark that would last much longer. "You're alive," Stillwell said simply. "In this business, that's often the best outcome you can hope for." She stood, smoothing her skirt. "Your research access will be activated by end of business today. Costume fitting is tomorrow morning. And Malcolm." She paused at the door. Homelander meant what he said. He will kill them. All of them. So whatever noble intentions you're harboring about being a double agent or gathering evidence, let them go. You're one of us now. She left Dragon alone in the breakfast room, with cold eggs and the weight of impossible choices. His burner phone buzzed. "Butcher, well, you in or out?" Dragon stared at the message for a long moment. Then he typed, "I'm in. But it's complicated. Don't contact me again unless absolutely necessary. They're watching." The response was immediate. "Fucking knew it. You've got 2 weeks to prove you're not a Vought puppet. After that, we come for you too." Dragon pocketed the phone and walked to the window. 99 stories below, New York City continued its morning routine. People going to work, drinking coffee, completely unaware that the heroes they trusted were manufactured products. And the newest addition to the Seven was a dimensional refugee caught between a corporate conspiracy and a revenge-driven terrorist cell. He touched his throat where Homelander had grabbed him. The skin was perfect now, but the message was clear. Step out of line, and there would be consequences. Dragon had survived impossible situations before. But this time, he wasn't fighting monsters or supervillains. He was fighting a system that turned heroes into weapons and marketed salvation while profiting from the destruction. And he'd just agreed to become part of it. The Vought Research Division occupied Sublevel 3, a floor that didn't appear on any public building schematics and required biometric clearance Dragon had only received that morning. The elevator descent felt symbolic. The deeper into Vaught's infrastructure he went, the further he sank into their world of manufactured truths and corporate-sanctioned atrocities. Dr. Samir Shah met him at the security checkpoint, A nervous man in his early 40s with tired eyes and the hunched posture of someone who'd spent too many years carrying secrets that weighed more than his conscience could handle. Officer Dragon. Shaw extended a trembling hand. Or should I say, the Seven's newest member? We haven't settled on your hero name yet, have we? Malcolm is fine, Dragon replied, scanning the corridor beyond the checkpoint. Reinforced walls. Cameras every 10 feet. Armed security that looked more like military contractors than rent-a-cops. This seems excessive for a research lab. We work with extremely sensitive materials, Shaw said, leading him deeper into the facility. Compound V is just the beginning. We have ongoing projects in genetic manipulation, dimensional physics, biological enhancement, consciousness transfer. He trailed off, realizing he was listing crimes disguised as science. They passed laboratories with glass walls revealing horror, shows Dragon wished he could unsee. Children in isolation chambers hooked to 4 drips of glowing blue liquid. Teenagers strapped to tables, while machinery measured their vital signs as they screamed. Adults in what looked like sensory deprivation tanks, bodies convulsing from whatever was being pumped into their systems. Dragon stopped walking. What the fuck is this? Shaw couldn't meet his eyes. Clinical trials. Controlled testing of compound V variants. We're trying to reduce the mortality rate and increase power manifestation consistency. Those are kids, Dragon said, voice deadly quiet. Orphans. Runaways. Subjects who volunteered. Bullshit. Dragon grabbed Shaw's arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to demand honesty. Look me in the eye and tell me those children volunteered to be tortured. Shaw finally met his gaze, and what Dragon saw there was a broken man who'd rationalized himself into complicity one compromise at a time. Their parents volunteered them, signed contracts. Vought provides substantial compensation. You're buying children to experiment on. We're creating the next generation of heroes, Shaw said, but even he didn't sound convinced anymore. The work we do here saves lives. For every subject who doesn't survive the process, 10 successful heroes protect thousands of civilians. It's a numbers game. Utilitarian calculus. Dragon released him, fighting the urge to put his fist through the glass and free every single child in those chambers. But he was outnumbered, outgunned, and one violent outburst would accomplish nothing except getting him killed, and those kids relocated to a facility he'd never find. Show me the dimensional research, Dragon said through gritted teeth. That's why I'm here. Shaw looked relieved to change subjects. He led Dragon to a separate wing where the experiments became less biological and more physics-focused. Massive machinery hummed with barely contained energy. Screens displayed equations Dragon's police academy education couldn't begin to parse. And in the center of it all, suspended in an electromagnetic field, floated a small fragment of reality that seemed to shift colors whenever Dragon looked directly at it. Residual matter from your arrival, Shaw explained. When the rift collapsed, it left behind trace elements. We've been studying them, trying to understand the mechanics of interdimensional travel. Can you reopen it? Dragon asked, even though part of him already knew the answer. No. Shaw's response was immediate and definitive. The energy required is astronomical. We'd need a power source equivalent to a small star. And even then, we'd have no way to control where the rift opened or ensure it connected to your specific dimension rather than one of the infinite alternatives. Dragon stared at the fragment, his last physical connection to home. So I'm stuck. I'm sorry, Shaw said, and for the first time, he sounded genuinely human. We'll continue researching, but realistically, yes, you're stuck. The words hit harder than Dragon expected. He'd known logically that the chances were slim, but hearing it confirmed, standing in this laboratory, surrounded by Vaught's crimes masquerading as science, made the reality inescapable. He had no home, no badge, no jurisdiction. Just a costume being tailored upstairs, and a place on a team of manufactured sociopaths. However, Shaw continued, pulling up files on a nearby terminal, we do have other projects that might interest you. Homeland mentioned you'd have full access, so let me show you what we're really working on. The files were labeled with clinical detachment, Project Genesis, Project Godmaker, Project Resurrection. Dragon scrolled through them, each more disturbing than the last. Project Genesis. Compound V distribution to pregnant women in developing nations, creating a new generation of powered individuals who could be recruited before other governments claim them. Project Godmaker. Experimental formulas designed to enhance already powered individuals beyond natural limits. The program that had created Homelander and was currently being used on test subjects with a 73% fatality rate. Project Resurrection. Attempts to bring dead soups back to life using Compound V variants, with results ranging from vegetative states to violent, uncontrollable reanimation. Jesus Christ, Dragon muttered. Does Stillwell know about all this? Stillwell greenlit most of it, Shah replied. Vought's board demands results. New products, new heroes, new revenue streams. We provide the science. Marketing handles the rest. Dragon continued scrolling, documenting everything mentally. Names, dates, casualty numbers. This was the evidence Butcher needed. Concrete proof of systematic human rights violations disguised as superhero development. Then he found a file that made his blood freeze. Project Chimera. The documentation detailed experiments combining Compound V with DNA from powerful soups to create hybrid offspring with enhanced abilities. Subject profiles included genetic samples from Homelander, Queen Maeve, Black Noir, and dozens of others. One entry caught Dragon's eye. Subject 0847, DNA source, Homelander. Status: terminated after violent manifestation at age 3. Recommendation: increase sedation protocols for future iterations. You're cloning them, Dragon said, voice hollow. Shah nodded. Homelander especially. He's Vought's most valuable asset. If something happened to him, we need replacements ready. We've created 17 so far. None have survived past early childhood. The psychological instability manifests too quickly. Because you're creating children with godlike power and no emotional foundation, Dragon said. Of course they become unstable. They're babies with heat vision and super strength, trapped in laboratories. It's for the greater good. Stop saying that. Dragon slammed his fist on the console, cracking the plastic. There's nothing good about any of this. You're torturing children, experimenting on human beings, playing God with people's lives. This isn't science. It's systematic evil. Shah stepped back, frightened. You agreed to join the 7. You knew what Vought was. I knew they were corrupt, Dragon corrected. I didn't know they were running human experimentation programs that would make Nazi doctors proud. Then what are you going to do about it? Shah challenged, finding some spine. You're one person. Homelander alone could kill you in seconds. Vought has resources, political connections, legal protections you can't touch. You can't stop this. Nobody can. Dragon looked around the laboratory, at the machines, the files, the evidence of crimes that should land everyone involved in prison for life. Shah was right about one thing. He was one person. But he'd been outnumbered before. I'm going to document everything, Dragon said quietly. Every experiment. Every child, every death. And then I'm going to make sure the world knows exactly what Vought International really does in the name of heroism. They'll kill you, Shah whispered. They'll try. Dragon pulled out his phone, not the burner, but the official Vought-issued device Stillwell had provided. He started photographing everything, knowing the phone was monitored but not caring anymore. You can help me, or you can stay complicit. But either way, this ends. Shah stared at him for a long moment. Then, with shaking hands, he pulled out a flash drive from his pocket. I've been keeping backups. Just in case. Everything, research notes, subject files, financial records, even communications with Stillwell and the board. I told myself it was for scientific documentation, but really, he looked at the children visible through the glass walls. Really, I just couldn't keep lying to myself that this was okay. Dragon took the flash drive. You know what happens when they find out you helped me? I've known for years that I'm damned, Shah replied. At least this way, maybe I do something good before the end. Before Dragon could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights flooded the corridors. Shah's face went pale. Containment breach, he said. One of the test subjects. An explosion rocked the building. Glass shattered in a nearby laboratory, and something massive burst through the wall. It had been human once. Dragon could see traces of the person underneath the grotesque mutations. Compound V had enhanced them beyond their body's ability to contain the power. Bones jutted through skin at impossible angles. Eyes glowed with uncontrolled energy. The mouth opened in a scream that sounded like agony and rage combined. Subject 0923, Shah said, backing toward the exit. Failed integration. We were supposed to terminate yesterday, but the board wanted one more test. The creature's eyes locked onto Dragon. Perhaps it recognized something. Another enhanced individual. Another person caught in Vaught's machine. Perhaps it just saw a target. It charged. Dragon braced himself, planting his feet. The creature hit him like a freight train, driving them both through two walls and into another laboratory. Equipment shattered. Alarms screamed louder. Somewhere, Dragon heard children crying. The creature was strong, maybe not Homelander level, but close. Its mutations gave it extra limbs, each one tipped with bone blade protrusions. It slashed wildly, catching Dragon across the chest. His healing factor kicked in immediately, but the pain was very real. Dragon grabbed one of the bone blades and used the creature's momentum against it, redirecting an attack into the floor. Concrete cracked. The creature howled. Definitely pain mixed with the rage now. I don't want to hurt you, Dragon shouted, trying to reach whatever human consciousness remained. You're a victim. Vought did this to you. But there was nothing left. Whatever person this had been, the failed Compound V integration had burned away everything except suffering and violence. Dragon made the call every cop dreaded. Sometimes you couldn't save everyone. He stopped holding back. His fist drove through the creature's chest, not to kill, but to disable. He grabbed what felt like the Compound V mutated heart and squeezed until the glow faded. The creature collapsed, still alive but unconscious. Security forces arrived seconds later, weapons trained on Dragon. Step away from the subject, the lead guard commanded. Dragon looked at them, then at the creature, then at the laboratories full of children who might become this if the experiments continued. He'd made his choice when he took Shah's flash drive. Now, he had to live with the consequences. No, Dragon said simply. The guards tensed. Before anyone could fire, a voice cut through the chaos. Stand down. Homelander descended from somewhere above, cape billowing dramatically. He surveyed the destruction with cold calculation, then locked eyes with Dragon. Interesting, Homelander said. First day with research access, and you've already caused millions in property damage. That's almost impressive. This thing was a person, Dragon said, still standing over the fallen creature. Your experiments turned them into a monster. Science requires sacrifice, Homelander replied, tone bored. Shah probably told you that. What he didn't tell you is that you're being monitored. Every room, every conversation, every file you accessed. He smiled. Did you really think we'd give you unrestricted access without watching everything you did? Dragon's hand closed around the flash drive in his pocket. So you know what I saw. I know you saw exactly what we wanted you to see, Homelander corrected. Well, most of it. Shah's little flash drive, that's new. Didn't know our good doctor had grown a conscience. His eyes found Shah, who'd frozen in the doorway. We'll deal with that shortly. You're going to kill him, Dragon said. I'm going to make an example, Homelander replied. Can't have employees thinking they can betray the company without consequences. Dragon stepped between them. You want Shah, you go through me. Homelander laughed, genuinely amused. You've got heart, Malcolm. Stupid, suicidal heart. But here's what you're missing. I don't have to fight you. I can just leave, lock this facility down, and let the security systems handle it. Automated defenses, nerve gas, remote detonation charges. This whole floor becomes a tomb, and nobody upstairs ever knows you died trying to be a hero. Then do it, Dragon challenged. Kill us all. Add more bodies to your count. But that flash drive? I already uploaded everything to a secure server. Kill me, and it goes public automatically. It was a bluff. Dragon hadn't had time. But Homelander didn't know that. The silence stretched for 3 long heartbeats. Then Homelander smiled, slow and predatory. "You're lying, but I admire the attempt." He moved faster than Dragon could track, grabbed Shaw by the throat, and lifted him off the ground. "Let's test your commitment to heroism, Malcolm. Save the doctor, or save the children in those labs when I start cooking them with heat vision. You can't do both. So choose." Dragon's mind raced. He was outmatched, outmaneuvered, and Homelander held all the cards. But he'd been a cop long enough to know. Sometimes you didn't win. Sometimes you just made the best of impossible choices and lived to fight another day. "Let Shaw go," Dragon said quietly. "I'll delete the files. Stay in line. Play your company hero. Just let him go." Homelander's smile widened. "Now we're negotiating. But I want more than compliance, Malcolm. I want loyalty. Real loyalty. So here's my counter. You become my partner. Not just another member of the Seven, my actual right hand. Help me keep order, deal with threats, ensure Vought's interests are protected. In exchange, Shaw lives. The children continue their very important research, and maybe I don't kill everyone you've ever cared about." Dragon looked at Shaw's terrified face, at the laboratories beyond, at the weight of choices that would haunt him forever. He'd come to this world hoping to find a way home. Instead, he'd found a hell that made his worst days in Chicago look merciful. "Deal," Dragon said, the word tasting like ash. Homelander dropped Shaw, who collapsed gasping. "Excellent. Welcome to the real Seven, Malcolm. This is where the fun begins." As security dragged Shaw away, alive at least for now, and emergency crews arrived to contain the damaged laboratories, Dragon stood alone in the ruins and felt the last pieces of his moral certainty crumble. He'd become exactly what he swore he'd never be, complicit. And Homelander's laughter echoed through the facility like a promise of worse things to come. The charity gala was held at the Grand Ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, where Manhattan's elite gathered to celebrate themselves while pretending to care about whatever cause justified the tax write-off. Tonight's theme was Heroes for Children. Ironic, Dragon thought, considering what he'd witnessed in Vought sublevels just 48 hours ago. He stood in front of a full-length mirror in the Vought Tower preparation suite, staring at the costume their designers had created. Dark green bodysuit with scaled texture that mimicked his natural skin. Tactical vest in black with a Vought logo prominent on the chest. His fin remained exposed. They decided it was too distinctive to hide, marketing it as his signature feature. The whole ensemble screamed military efficiency meets corporate branding. "You look good," Starlight said from the doorway. She wore her own costume, white and gold, designed to evoke innocence and hope. Up close, Dragon could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her smile didn't quite reach them anymore. "I look like a weapon," Dragon replied. "Yeah." She stepped inside, closing the door behind her. "That's kind of what we are, isn't it? Vought's weapons, dressed up in capes and good intentions." Dragon studied her. "The Deep told me what happened. What he did to you." Starlight's expression hardened. "Did he tell you how Madeline made it disappear? How she threatened my mother's medical coverage if I didn't stay quiet? How she turned my assault into a learning experience about team dynamics?" He mentioned some of it. "Then you know." Starlight moved to the window, looking out at the city. "I came to Vought thinking I could actually help people. Be a real hero like I dreamed about since I was a kid. Instead, I'm a product, a brand. And every time I put on this costume, I'm complicit in everything they do." "Why stay?" Dragon asked. "Because if I leave, they'll destroy me," Starlight said simply. "Smear campaign, legal action, blacklist me from ever working again. They'll make sure everyone knows I'm unstable, difficult, ungrateful. And then they'll replace me with someone more obedient, and nothing changes except I'm ruined." She turned to face him. "So I stay. I smile for the cameras. I do the appearances. And I try to actually save people when they're not watching." Dragon understood. He'd seen good cops trapped in corrupt systems, forced to choose between their principles and their survival. The math was always brutal. Stay and compromise yourself, or leave and accomplish nothing. "Homelander knows I accessed the research files," Dragon said. He's using it as leverage. Wants me as his personal enforcer. Starlight's eyes widened. He told you about the labs? The experiments. Showed me, actually. Think it was some kind of test. See if I'd break or break bad. Dragon's fist clenched. I saw children, Annie. Kids being injected with Compound V, monitored like lab rats. Some of them dying. The ones who survive. He couldn't finish. Become us, Starlight completed quietly. That's how it works. They dose children young enough that the powers seem natural. Create origin stories, manufacture backgrounds, sell the fantasy to America. I didn't know I was given Compound V until 6 months after joining the Seven. My whole life, I thought I was blessed by God. Turns out I was just a successful experiment. The revelation hit Dragon like a physical blow. Your mother knew. My mother volunteered me when I was 6 months old, Starlight said, voice cracking. Vought paid her. Not enough to be rich, but enough to be comfortable. Enough to make her believe she was giving me a better life. She laughed bitterly. And now I can't even hate her for it, because without those powers, I'd be nobody. Just another girl from Iowa, with big dreams and no way to achieve them. Dragon wanted to tell her it wasn't true, that she'd have been somebody regardless. But he'd been a cop long enough to know that sometimes the cruelty was exactly that simple. Vought had stolen her potential and sold it back to her as a gift. We should go, Starlight said, composing herself. They'll be announcing you soon. America's newest hero, fresh from another dimension, ready to protect truth, justice, and Vought stock price. The gala was everything Dragon expected and worse. Champagne flowing like water. Politicians glad-handing with corporate executives. The Seven circulating through the crowd like celebrities, which is exactly what they were, famous, beloved, and utterly hollow. Homelander worked the room with practiced ease, his smile never faltering as he posed for photos and delivered sound bites about American values and heroic responsibility. Queen Maeve drank more than she smiled, her eyes distant. A-Train chatted with sponsors, probably lining up endorsement deals. The Deep stood alone near the bar, avoiding eye contact with everyone. Black Noir remained silent and motionless in a corner, watching everything. Ladies and gentlemen, Madeline Stillwell's voice rang out from a stage. If I could have your attention, please. The crowd quieted. Spotlights focused on Stillwell as she smiled her most professional smile, the one that promised excellence and delivered exploitation. Tonight, we celebrate our commitment to children everywhere. Vought International has donated over $50 million to children's hospitals, education programs, and youth development initiatives across the country. Applause. Dragon wondered how much they'd made off the children in their labs. But we're not just investing in children's futures. We're also investing in their heroes. The men and women who protect them, inspire them, and show them that anything is possible. More applause. Dragon felt sick, which is why I'm thrilled to introduce the newest member of the Seven. He arrived in our world through mysterious circumstances, saved hundreds of lives his first day here, and has already proven himself a true hero in every sense of the word. Please welcome Savage Dragon. The spotlight hit Dragon. Cameras flashed. The crowd erupted in applause, genuine enthusiasm mixed with the performative celebration of the wealthy and powerful. Dragon walked to the stage on autopilot, very aware of Homelander's eyes tracking his every movement. Stillwell handed him a microphone. Dragon, tell us, how does it feel to be part of the Seven? Dragon looked out at the crowd, faces full of expectation, believing the fantasy Vought had constructed. Behind them, he could see the children's hospital representatives, genuinely grateful for funding that would save lives, funding extracted from the suffering of other children in secret laboratories. The weight of the flash drive in his pocket felt like lead. He could do it right now. Tell them everything. Expose Vought on live television in front of hundreds of witnesses and dozens of cameras. Then Homelander's hand landed on his shoulder, friendly to observers, but Dragon felt the strength behind it. The unspoken threat. It's an honor, Dragon heard himself say. Coming from another world, I didn't know what to expect. But the Seven welcomed me, showed me that heroism transcends dimensions. that protecting people is a universal calling. The words tasted like poison. I'm proud to stand with them. The crowd ate it up. Applause thundered. Homelander's grip tightened fractionally, approval and warning combined. And what message do you have for the children of America? Stillwell prompted, driving the propaganda home. Dragon looked at the camera, knowing children were watching. Kids who dreamed of being heroes, who didn't know they were being groomed as future products for Vought's assembly line. Be careful who you trust, Dragon said, deviating from whatever script Stillwell expected. Real heroes don't need costumes or corporate sponsors. They're the people who help others even when there's no cameras watching. Your parents, teachers, neighbors, those are the real heroes. The rest of us. He met Homelander's eyes. We're just people trying to live up to the ideal. Stillwell's smile flickered, just for a second, before she recovered. Humble and inspiring. That's what makes the 7 special. Please, everyone, give it up one more time for Savage Dragon. As the applause continued, Dragon left the stage. Homelander intercepted him immediately, steering him toward a private corridor away from the crowd. What the fuck was that? Homelander hissed, smile finally dropping. The truth, Dragon replied. You wanted me compliant, not lobotomized. I said we're proud to serve. That's what you needed. You told them to be careful who they trust, Homelander said. That's not on-brand messaging, Malcolm. It's honest messaging, Dragon countered. You want me to play hero? Fine. But I'm not reading corporate scripts like a puppet. Homelander's eyes flared, heat vision barely contained. You're pushing your luck. And you're stuck with me, Dragon said. You made me your partner, remember? Your right hand. Which means I get some autonomy, or the whole thing falls apart and you're back to babysitting the 7 alone. The calculation played across Homelander's face. He wanted control, but he also wanted someone competent beside him. Someone who could actually contribute rather than just follow orders. Fine, Homelander said finally. But you pull another stunt like that, and our deal is off. I'll kill Shaw, I'll kill Butcher, I'll kill everyone you've looked at twice. Clear. Crystal. Good. Homelander's smile returned like flipping a switch. Now get back out there and schmooze. We've got donors to impress and an image to maintain. Dragon returned to the gala, moving through the crowd on autopilot. Shaking hands. Posing for photos. Playing the role Vought had assigned him. He was intercepted near the bar by a woman in an elegant black dress. Early 40s, sharp eyes. The bearing of someone used to power. Officer Dragon, she said, extending a hand. Congresswoman Victoria Newman. I chair the House Subcommittee on Superhuman Affairs. Dragon shook her hand carefully. Congresswoman. I wanted to personally thank you for your service, Newman continued. What you did in Times Square was genuinely heroic. No cameras set up, no PR team coordinating. Just a person with power choosing to help. That's rare in this business. You sound skeptical of the 7, Dragon observed. Newman's smile was knowing. I'm skeptical of any organization with too much power and too little oversight. Vought has both. She handed him a business card. If you ever want to talk about what really happens behind their corporate curtain, my office has secure lines and congressional immunity. Dragon pocketed the card. Thinking of taking down Vought, Congresswoman? Thinking of making sure they're accountable, Newman corrected. There's a difference. Call me if you decide accountability matters to you. She walked away, leaving Dragon with another impossible choice. Trust a politician who might be genuine, or assume she was just another player in Vaught's game. The gala continued for another 3 hours. Dragon endured it all, playing his part, while his mind raced with calculations about evidence, alliances, and how to survive long enough to make a difference. Finally, it ended. The crowd dispersed. The 7 returned to Vought Tower for the mandatory post-event debriefing. In the conference room, Stillwell reviewed their performance like a coach analyzing game footage. Dragon barely listened until Homelander's voice cut through his thoughts. Malcolm has research duties tomorrow. Lab work with our science division. Dragon's attention snapped back. What? You wanted full access to dimensional research, Homelander said innocently. So you're assigned to the labs. Supervised, of course. Can't have any more containment breaches. It was a punishment disguised as opportunity. Dragon would be back in those facilities, surrounded by evidence of Vought's crimes, unable to do anything about it. Looking forward to it, Dragon said evenly. After the debriefing, Dragon returned to his assigned quarters, a luxury apartment in Vought Tower that felt more like a gilded cage. He pulled out his burner phone, the one he'd kept hidden despite Vaught's monitoring. One message from Butcher. Time's up. You're either helping or you're the enemy. Need proof you're not compromised. Dragon stared at the message, then at Shah's flash drive still hidden in his locked safe. He thought about the children in the labs, about Starlight's broken idealism, about Homelander's threats and Vaught's systematic evil. He'd been a cop, a protector, someone who stood between innocent people and monsters. But how did you fight monsters when they owned the law, controlled the narrative, and had godlike power? Dragon opened his encrypted laptop and began uploading files from Shah's flash drive to a secure server, slowly, in small batches that might slip under Vaught's monitoring algorithms. It would take weeks to transfer everything, weeks of playing Homelander's partner, while secretly building the evidence that could destroy them all. Weeks of being complicit in crimes that would haunt him forever. But it was the only play he had left. Outside his window, New York City glittered, beautiful and oblivious to the rot at its heart. Dragon worked through the night, uploading files one by one, knowing that every second brought him closer to either justice or execution. In this world, sometimes they were the same thing. The message came at 3 a.m., 3 weeks after the gala. Dragon had just finished uploading the last batch of Shah's files when his burner phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. Translucent is dead. Butcher killed him. Homelander knows. Get out now. Dragon stared at the message, mind racing. Translucent. The Seven's invisible member, dead. Which meant Butcher had escalated from investigation to assassination. Which meant Vought would respond with overwhelming force. Which meant anyone connected to the boys was now a target. His door exploded inward before he could move. Homelander stood in the hallway, eyes glowing crimson, smile completely absent. Behind him, Black Noir waited in absolute silence, a shadow ready to kill on command. "We need to talk," Homelander said, voice flat and cold. "Somewhere private. Somewhere soundproof." Dragon knew resistance was suicide, but compliance might be too. "What's this about?" "Translucent's dead," Homelander said. "Blown apart from the inside. Someone shoved a bomb up his ass and detonated it. Creative. Brutal. Exactly Butcher style." He stepped into the apartment, cape dragging across expensive carpet. "And I'm wondering if my new partner knew anything about it." "I didn't," Dragon said truthfully. "I've had zero contact with Butcher since." "Since you met him in that subway station 3 weeks ago?" Homelander interrupted. "Oh, I know. I've been watching, waiting to see if you'd betray me." His eyes dimmed slightly, the glow fading to human blue. "But you've been a good boy. Showed up to labs, smiled for cameras, played your role. So either you're genuinely reformed, or you're the best liar I've ever met." Dragon held his ground. "I told you I'd cooperate." "I have." "Then prove it," Homelander said. "Come with me. We're going to find Butcher and his merry band of terrorists. And you're going to help me kill them." The safe house was in Brooklyn, a condemned building scheduled for demolition that Butcher had somehow claimed as base of operations. Homelander approached from the air, Dragon riding in a Vought helicopter with Black Noir and a tactical team. They didn't bother with subtlety. Homelander descended through the roof like an avenging angel, heat vision carving through concrete and steel. The tactical team breached the ground floor simultaneously. Dragon came through a side window, clearing the room with cop efficiency even as his conscience screamed that he was on the wrong side. Butcher was ready. The explosion caught Dragon mid-entry, blasting him backward into the street. His healing factor absorbed the worst of it, but the message was clear. Butcher knew they were coming. Inside, chaos erupted. Homelander's heat vision swept through the building, demolishing walls in search of targets. MM returned fire with heavy ordnance, military-grade weapons that could actually hurt even enhanced individuals. Frenchie triggered secondary explosives, collapsing sections of the structure. Huey ran, terrified but alive. And Butcher. Butcher stood in the center of the carnage with a detonator in one hand and a smile that promised mutually assured destruction. "There's the cunt himself," Butcher called out as Homelander landed amid the rubble. "Come to avenge your invisible mate?" He died screaming, by the way. Begged like a little bitch. Homelander's composure cracked. Heat vision lashed out, but Butcher dug behind a reinforced barrier. The whole building had been rigged as a trap. Dragon pulled himself from the street crater and ran inside. He found Huey pinned under debris, leg trapped. "Help me," Huey gasped. "Please, Dragon, I know you're not really with them." Dragon hesitated. This was the moment. Choose a side. Commit. Then Homelander's voice echoed through the structure. "Butcher, I'm going to peel your skin off and make you watch while I burn everyone you've ever cared about." Dragon made his choice. He lifted the debris, freeing Huey. "Run. Back exit. Don't stop." Huey stared, disbelieving. "You're helping us?" "I'm helping you not die in a building collapse," Dragon corrected. "Now move before I change my mind or Homelander notices." Huey ran. Dragon turned to find Black Noir watching from the shadows. The silent enforcer tilted his head, a question without words. "Are you betraying us?" "Kid was trapped," Dragon said. "Wasn't armed. Didn't pose a threat." Black Noir didn't move for 3 long seconds. Then he pointed toward where Butcher and Homelander were locked in combat, accepting the explanation or choosing to ignore the betrayal. Dragon couldn't tell which. The fight between Butcher and Homelander was brutal and one-sided. Butcher had military training and tactical genius. Homelander had godlike power and absolutely no restraint. Every exchange ended with Butcher barely avoiding death. "You killed my teammate," Homelander screamed, grabbing Butcher by the throat and slamming him through a wall. "You murdered a hero." "Hero." Butcher laughed, blood streaming from his mouth. Translucent was a pervert who used his powers to watch women in changing rooms. He was a predator with a Vought salary. Worlds better off without him. Homelander's grip tightened. Butcher's face turned purple. Dragon intervened. His fist caught Homelander's jaw, not hard enough to seriously hurt, but enough to make him release Butcher. Homelander spun, eyes blazing with betrayed fury. "What the fuck, Malcolm?" "He's unarmed," Dragon said quickly. "He's beaten. You kill him now, you're just a murderer. Bring him in. Let the law handle it." "The law?" Homelander's laugh was unhinged. "There is no law for people like us. We are the law." "Then prove you're better than him," Dragon pressed. "Prove Vought stands for justice, not revenge. Bring him in alive." It was a gamble. Appeal to Homelander's ego. His need to be seen as righteous rather than monstrous. For one horrible moment, Dragon thought it wouldn't work. Then Homelander smiled, cold and calculating. "Fine. We'll do it your way." He grabbed Butcher's unconscious form. "But this conversation isn't over, Malcolm. You and I are going to have a very long talk about loyalty." Vought Tower's interrogation room was sterile and soundproof, designed for enhanced individuals who might resist conventional questioning. Butcher sat chained to a reinforced chair, battered but conscious, glaring at Homelander through swollen eyes. Dragon stood in the observation room with Madeline Stillwell, watching through one-way glass. "He'll never talk," Stillwell said. "William Butcher has been hunting Vought for 5 years. He's prepared for torture, drugs, psychological manipulation. We won't get anything useful from him." "Then why keep him alive?" Dragon asked. Stillwell's smile was predatory. "Because he's leverage. Butcher has a wife, Becca. She disappeared 8 years ago, presumed dead. But we know better. We know exactly where she is. And when Butcher realizes we can get to her, he'll tell us everything about his little terrorist network." Dragon's blood ran cold. "You're threatening a civilian." "We're protecting American interests," Stillwell corrected smoothly. "Butcher is a domestic terrorist who murdered a superhero. Any measures we take are legally justified under the Patriot Act's enhanced individual provisions." Through the glass, Homelander leaned close to Butcher's ear, whispering something inaudible. Whatever he said made Butcher's expression shift from defiant to devastated. What did he tell him? Dragon asked. Probably the truth about Becca, Stillwell replied. That she's alive. That Homelander visited her 8 years ago. That their encounter resulted in... She paused delicately. Complications. Dragon understood immediately. Homelander raped her. Homelander had a relationship with her that resulted in a child, Stillwell said, each word carefully chosen for legal deniability. Becca was relocated for her safety and the child's. She lives comfortably in a Vought facility with everything provided for. It's actually quite humanitarian. It's imprisonment, Dragon said. You're holding her hostage to control Butcher. We're protecting a woman and child from a dangerous individual, Stillwell countered. Butcher is unstable, violent. If he knew about the child, he'd do something reckless. This way, everyone stays safe. Dragon watched Butcher's face crumble as Homelander continued whispering. The man's entire worldview was shattering. His wife hadn't died. She'd been taken, hidden, used. And the monster responsible stood inches away, smiling. I want him released, Dragon said suddenly. Stillwell turned, genuinely surprised. Excuse me. Butcher. Release him. Drop the charges. He murdered Translucent. Translucent was a sexual predator using his powers to violate women, Dragon interrupted. I accessed his file. 17 complaints buried by Vought Legal. Butcher killed a serial offender, and you want to prosecute him for it. Stillwell's expression hardened. Be very careful, Malcolm. You're new here. You don't understand how things work. I understand perfectly, Dragon said. You manufacture heroes, bury their crimes, and crush anyone who threatens the narrative. But here's what you're missing. Butcher's network is scattered now. Huey escaped. I saw him run. MM and Frenchie are in the wind. You've won. Killing or imprisoning Butcher accomplishes nothing except creating a martyr. Homelander wants him dead. Homelander wants a lot of things that aren't strategically sound, Dragon countered. But you're smarter than that, Madeline. Released Butcher. Discredit him publicly. Make him look like a conspiracy theorist obsessed with lies about Vought. No one believes a crazy person, and he can't hurt you if nobody takes him seriously. Stillwell considered this. Brilliant mind calculating angles. And what do we get from you in return for this mercy? My complete cooperation, Dragon said. No more questions about the labs. No more moral objections. I become exactly what Homelander wants, his partner, his enforcer. Your soul for Butcher's life, Stillwell summarized. That's the offer? Dragon met her eyes. That's the offer. Stillwell smiled. I'll discuss it with the board. But Malcolm, if Butcher comes after us again, if any of his people cause problems, the deal's off. And Homelander gets to do whatever he wants to everyone involved, including you. They released Butcher at dawn, dumping him in an alley in Queens, with a warning that going public would result in charges of terrorism, murder, and treason. Vought's legal team had already prepared the narrative. Delusional ex-CIA operative obsessed with superhero conspiracy theories after his wife's tragic death. No one would believe him, and everyone would know better than to help him. Dragon watched from a rooftop as Butcher stumbled away, broken but alive. The man looked back once, met Dragon's eyes across the distance. No gratitude, no acknowledgement, just the hollow stare of someone who'd lost everything and found out it could get worse. Then he was gone into the city's mourning crowds. Dragon's burner phone buzzed. Huey, why did you help me? And why did they let Billy go? Dragon typed slowly. Because I'm trying to be better than them. Delete this number. Don't contact me again. You're being watched. He threw the phone off the roof, watching it shatter on the pavement below. When he returned to Vought Tower, Homelander was waiting in his apartment, sitting in Dragon's chair, drinking Dragon's whiskey, looking perfectly at home in someone else's space. You traded yourself for Butcher, Homelander said, without preamble. Full cooperation. No more questions. Madeline was very pleased with the negotiation. It was the smart play, Dragon replied. It was the weak play, Homelander corrected. But I'm allowing it because watching you compromise your principles is more entertaining than just killing you would be. He stood, moving close enough that Dragon could smell the expensive cologne and underlying ozone. You're going to become me, Malcolm. Little by little. Compromise by compromise. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize you're exactly the monster you swore you'd never be. Is that what happened to you? Dragon asked. Homelander's smile was genuine for the first time since Dragon had met him. I never swore anything. I was made this way. But you? You chose it. That's so much worse. He left, cape billowing, leaving Dragon alone with the weight of what he'd done. Outside, the sun rose over New York City. Another day of heroism and horror, carefully balanced on Vought's corporate ledger. Dragon sat in the chair Homelander had vacated and poured himself a drink. He'd saved Butcher's life, saved Huey, kept the boys alive to fight another day. But the cost was his soul, sold to Vought in increments, compromised one choice at a time. And Homelander was right. The monster in the mirror was starting to look familiar. 6 weeks of perfect compliance. 6 weeks of playing Homelander's loyal partner, attending Vought events, smiling for cameras, and burying every instinct that screamed he was on the wrong side. 6 weeks of watching the labs continue their experiments, knowing he'd traded his objections for Butcher's life. Dragon stood in the Vought Tactical Operations Center, watching a live feed of a hostage situation in downtown Manhattan. Armed gunmen had seized the bank, 17 civilians trapped inside. Standard crisis response would be NYPD negotiators, SWAT teams, careful de-escalation. Vought's response was the 7. This is perfect, Madeline Stillwell said, surveying the monitors with the calculating eyes of someone who saw tragedy as opportunity. Primetime coverage, clear villains, endangered civilians. The optics are ideal. People are dying in there, Dragon said. Which is why we need heroes to save them, Stillwell replied smoothly. Homelander, you'll take point. Dragon, you provide support. Starlight, you handle crowd control and ensure cameras get your good side. A-Train, perimeter security. Let's make this clean, heroic, and trendworthy. Homelander grinned. Finally, I was getting bored with ribbon cuttings and charity dinners. Time to remind everyone why they need us. They deployed via Vought helicopter. News crews already positioned for maximum coverage. Dragon dropped from 50 feet up, landing hard enough to crack pavement. A show of strength for the cameras Stillwell had positioned strategically around the scene. The bank was chaos. Gunmen shouted demands through broken windows. Police had established a perimeter but were clearly outmatched. Inside, Dragon could hear crying children among the hostages. NYPD stand down, Homelander announced, landing beside Dragon with practiced theatrical flair. The 7 are handling this now. The police captain, a grizzled veteran named Morrison, who Dragon recognized from news coverage, looked relieved and frustrated in equal measure. We were making progress with negotiation. And now you're not needed, Homelander interrupted. Go secure the perimeter. We'll handle the rescue. Morrison's jaw clenched, but he complied. What choice did he have? Vought owned the mayor's office, the governor's mansion, and half the city council. Homelander turned to Dragon. You take the back entrance. I'll go through the front. Anyone shoots at you, you're authorized to respond with appropriate force. Appropriate meaning don't kill them on camera, but feel free to break every bone in their body. These are people, Dragon said quietly. Maybe desperate, maybe making the worst choice of their lives, but still people. These are villains, Homelander corrected. We're heroes. It's simple math, Malcolm. Stop overthinking. Before Dragon could respond, Homelander walked toward the bank's main entrance, cape billowing in the manufactured breeze from news helicopters overhead. Dragon moved to the rear exit, every instinct screaming this was wrong. Standard hostage protocol was patience, negotiation, minimal force. Homelander's approach was maximum spectacle with civilian safety as a distant second priority. The back door was steel reinforced. Dragon tore it off the hinges and stepped into the employee area. A gunman spun toward him, automatic rifle rising. Dragon moved faster. He closed the distance before the trigger could be pulled, grabbed the weapon's barrel, and crushed it in his fist. The gunman stumbled backward, terrified. On the ground, Dragon commanded in his cop voice, the one that had convinced hundreds of criminals to comply over the years. Hands behind your head. Now. The gunman dropped, trembling. From the main lobby, Dragon heard Homelander's voice amplified for the cameras. Let the hostages go and surrender peacefully. This is your only warning. Gunfire erupted immediately. Dragon heard screams, civilians caught in crossfire. He moved toward the lobby, securing the gunman with zip ties from his tactical vest, then burst through the door into hell. Homelander stood in the center of the lobby, bullets bouncing harmlessly off his chest as he smiled for the cameras positioned outside the windows. He wasn't moving to protect hostages, wasn't using his speed to disarm the shooters. He was letting them fire, demonstrating his invulnerability while civilians cowered behind overturned desks. 3 gunmen focused on Homelander. A 4th had his weapon trained on the hostages, finger tight on the trigger, too scared to think straight, ready to kill out of pure panic. Dragon launched himself across the lobby. His shoulder hit the gunman just as the trigger pulled, redirecting the shot into the ceiling. They crashed together into the marble floor. Dragon's fist connected once, controlled force, enough to knock unconscious but not kill. Behind him, Homelander finally moved. Heat vision lanced across the lobby, severing the rifles from the remaining gunmen's hands. The weapons clattered to the floor, barrels glowing red-hot. The gunman screamed, hands burned from the superheated metal. Threat neutralized, Homelander announced for the cameras. All hostages are safe. Except they weren't. Dragon saw it immediately, an elderly woman clutching her chest, having a heart attack from stress. A child with a bleeding leg caught by a ricochet. A banker with a head wound from being thrown to the floor during the initial assault. We need medical, Dragon called out, moving to the woman. Her pulse was erratic. Cardiac arrest imminent. Medical is standing by, Homelander said, still playing to the cameras. The 7 have successfully resolved another crisis. All in a day's work. He walked out into the waiting media circus, leaving Dragon to actually help the victims. Starlight entered, her expression shifting from rehearsed smile to genuine horror as she saw the wounded. Oh God, Dragon, what are we? Help me, Dragon said, already beginning CPR on the woman. Forget the cameras. These people need us now. Starlight knelt beside the child, using her powers to create light that emergency responders could work by. For 3 minutes, they weren't Vought products or corporate heroes. They were just 2 people trying to save lives. The woman's heart restarted. EMTs rushed in. Paramedics took over. Outside, Homelander gave interviews about the flawless rescue operation. Inside, Dragon and Starlight sat among the traumatized hostages and wounded civilians, the reality of Vought's heroism written in blood and terror. The debrief at Vought Tower was celebratory. Stillwell showed ratings. 15 million viewers, trending #1 on social media. Public approval up 8 points. Textbook response, she declared. Homelander, your presence alone neutralized the threat. Dragon, excellent backup work. Starlight, the footage of you comforting that child is already going viral. This is exactly the kind of content that drives subscriber growth and merchandise sales. 3 people were hospitalized, Dragon said quietly. 1 child might lose her leg to infection from that bullet wound. The elderly woman has permanent heart damage. Regrettable, Stillwell acknowledged, but statistically acceptable. 17 hostages, 14 walked away unharmed. That's an 82% success rate. Industry standard for crisis intervention is 65%. We exceeded expectations. Dragon felt something cold and final settle in his chest. They were measuring human suffering in percentages and ROI calculations. I want to talk to the police, Dragon said. Get their assessment of the situation. Understand what they would have done differently. Homelander laughed. They would have sat outside for 6 hours, let the gunman shoot a few hostages to prove they were serious, then maybe attempted a breach that got cops killed. We resolved it in 10 minutes with 0 hero casualties. Why would you want their input? Because they're professionals who care about minimizing harm, not maximizing screen time, Dragon replied. The room went silent. Stillwell's smile froze. Homelander's expression darkened. Meeting adjourned, Stillwell said crisply. Dragon, my office. Now. Stillwell's office occupied the top floor, all glass and steel, with a view of the city that probably cost more per square foot than most New Yorkers earned in a year. She poured herself scotch and didn't offer Dragon any. You're questioning our methods, she said, without preamble. I'm questioning our priorities, Dragon corrected. That bank siege could have been resolved with negotiation. Instead, we escalated to violence because it made better television. We escalated to resolution, Stillwell countered. Those gunmen chose violence when they seized hostages. We responded appropriately. Appropriately would have been letting NYPD negotiate. Homelander standing there letting them shoot him just to prove he's invulnerable. That's not heroism. That's ego. Stillwell set down her glass with deliberate care. Malcolm, I've been patient with you. You're new to this world, adjusting to our methods. But you need to understand something fundamental. The 7 are not public servants. You're not cops or emergency responders. You're a brand, a product. And that product sells safety, strength, and American superiority. We're supposed to save people, Dragon said. You do save people, Stillwell replied. Millions of them. The mere existence of the 7 prevents crime, deters terrorism, and provides psychological comfort to a population that lives in constant fear. Yes, sometimes individual incidents have complications, but the aggregate effect is overwhelmingly positive. Aggregate effect, Dragon repeated. You're talking about human lives like they're data points. Everything is data, Stillwell said. Public perception, brand loyalty, market share. It all reduces to numbers. And the numbers show that Vought's heroes save more lives than any alternative. So yes, I'll optimize for maximum social benefit even if individual cases have regrettable outcomes. Dragon thought about the child with the bullet wound, the woman with the damaged heart. Regrettable outcomes. Acceptable losses. I want to do better, he said finally. Then do what Homelander tells you, Stillwell replied. Play your role. Stop questioning every tactical decision. And remember that you made a deal. Complete cooperation in exchange for Butcher's life. Are you reneging? The threat was clear. One more objection, and Homelander would be unleashed on Butcher, the boys, everyone Dragon had tried to protect. No, Dragon said. I'm honoring my agreement. Good. Stillwell's smile returned. Because we have another situation developing. Compound V has leaked to the public. Someone sold samples to a journalist, Rebecca Rayner, very reputable, planning to run an exposé about Vought manufacturing superheroes. We need this contained before publication. Dragon's blood ran cold. What do you want me to do? Homelander is handling the journalist, Stillwell said casually. What we need from you is to identify the leak. Someone inside Vought provided those samples. Dr. Shah is our primary suspect. The man who'd given Dragon the flash drive. The man who'd grown a conscience too late. You want me to investigate my own team, Dragon said. I want you to protect this company from internal threats, Stillwell corrected. Shah had access to Compound V. He's expressed concerns about our research methods. And he's been acting suspicious since that containment breach you witnessed. If he's the leak, we need to know. Before Homelander finds out and handles it his way. It was a test. Stillwell knew about Shah's flash drive, about Dragon's contact with him. This was an opportunity to prove loyalty by burning the one person who tried to help him. I'll investigate, Dragon said, the words tasting like ashes. Excellent. Report directly to me. And Malcolm. Stillwell's eyes were ice. If you find evidence Shah is the leak and you don't immediately disclose it, our deal is void. Are we clear? Crystal. Dragon found Dr. Shah in his apartment, a modest place in Brooklyn that smelled like fear and resignation. Shah answered the door, already knowing why Dragon was there. They sent you, Shah said, no question in his voice. Stillwell thinks you leaked Compound V to a journalist, Dragon replied. Did you? Shah laughed bitterly. I gave you everything. The flash drive, the access codes, the evidence. You were supposed to expose them, Malcolm. Instead, you became Homelander's partner and buried it all. I'm trying to survive, Dragon said. Same as you. No, Shah corrected. I'm trying to make amends. You're trying to have it both ways. Play hero while serving monsters. There's a difference. Dragon stepped inside, closing the door. Did you give Compound V to the journalist? Yes. Shah said it without hesitation. Rebecca Rayner is credible, connected, and brave enough to publish. With physical samples and my testimony, she can prove Vought has been manufacturing soups for decades. It'll destroy their stock price, force government investigation, maybe even criminal charges. It'll get you killed, Dragon said. Homelander is already hunting the source. When he finds you, then I'll die telling the truth, Shah interrupted. Better than living another day watching children get injected with experimental serums, watching them die or go insane, all while pretending it's for the greater good. He met Dragon's eyes. I gave you the evidence to do the right thing. You chose safety. Fine. But don't expect me to make the same choice. Dragon could arrest him, turn him over to Vought, prove his loyalty, and protect his fragile position. Or he could let Shah go. Protect the leak. Give the journalist her story and let the chips fall where they may. Both choices led to disaster. One sacrificed Shah. The other sacrificed any remaining trust Vought had in Dragon. How long until the story publishes? Dragon asked. 3 days, Shah replied. She's fact-checking, securing corroboration. Then it goes live on every platform simultaneously. Vought can't suppress it all. 3 days. Dragon had 3 days to decide who he really was. The cop who stood for justice regardless of cost, or the compromise hero who'd traded his principles for survival. Outside Shah's window, New York City hummed with life. Millions of people who had no idea their heroes were manufactured. Their safety was theater. And the truth was about to explode across every screen in America. Dragon looked at Shah's tired, determined face and made his choice. Run, Dragon said quietly. Tonight. Disappear. Give the journalist her story, then vanish so completely even Homelander can't find you. Shah's eyes widened. You're letting me go? I'm giving you a head start, Dragon corrected. When Stillwell asks if I found the leak, I'll tell her no. You'll have maybe 48 hours before they figure out I lied. Use them. Why? Shah asked. This ends your deal with Vought. Homelander will come for you. Because I'm tired of being the monster in the mirror, Dragon said. And because someone needs to tell the truth, even if it kills us both. Shah grabbed his go bag, pre-packed, like he'd been expecting this, and headed for the door. He paused at the threshold. The flash drive you have, Shah said. It contains everything. If my testimony isn't enough, release it. Let the world see what Vought really is. Then he was gone into the New York night. Dragon stood alone in the empty apartment, knowing he'd just signed his own death warrant. In 3 days, the truth would destroy Vaught's carefully constructed mythology, and Homelander would make Dragon pay for every second of it. The story broke at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, simultaneously across the New York Times, Washington Post, and Guardian. Rebecca Rayner's byline sat above a headline that would change everything. Manufactured heroes. Inside Vought International's decades-long Compound V conspiracy. Dragon watched it unfold from his apartment, monitors displaying news networks scrambling to cover the bombshell. Physical samples of Compound V confirmed authentic by independent laboratories. Testimony from Dr. Samir Shah, complete with documentation dating back 30 years. Financial records showing payments to parents who'd volunteered their children for experimentation. Video footage from Vought facilities showing injections, mutations, deaths. Everything. The entire rotten infrastructure, exposed in 4,000 words of meticulous journalism. His phone started ringing at 6:03 a.m. Stillwell. Dragon ignored it. At 6:07 a.m., his door exploded inward for the second time in 2 months. Homelander stood in the hallway, eyes glowing crimson, smile completely absent. This time he wasn't alone. Black Noir flanked him on one side, Queen Maeve on the other. A-Train vibrated in the background, ready to move at supersonic speed. "You lied to me," Homelander said, voice terrifyingly calm. "Stillwell asked if you found the leak. You said no. But Shaw was the leak. Which means you knew, and you protected him." Dragon stood slowly, no sudden movements. "I made a choice." "You made a mistake." Homelander's composure shattered. He moved faster than Dragon could track, grabbed him by the throat, and slammed him through the exterior wall. They plummeted 90 stories, Dragon's back grinding against glass and steel as Homelander drove him downward. They hit the street hard enough to crater the asphalt. Cars screeched to avoid the impact zone. Civilians screamed and ran. Cameras immediately appeared. New York in the social media age, every moment captured for posterity. Homelander lifted Dragon and threw him through a parked delivery truck. Metal crumpled. Dragon's healing factor worked overtime, repairing ribs and internal damage even as Homelander advanced. "You self-righteous FUCK." Homelander screamed. "I gave you everything. Partnership, protection, a place in the Seven. And you betrayed me for a scientist with a guilty conscience and a journalist with a Pulitzer fetish." Dragon pulled himself from the wreckage. Blood ran from a dozen wounds that were already closing. "I did what was right." "Right." Homelander's heat vision lanced out, carving a line across Dragon's chest. The pain was immediate and excruciating. "You destroyed us. That story is everywhere. Stock price already dropped 40%. Congress is calling for investigations. My face is on every screen next to the word manufactured, like I'm some fucking product." "You are a product," Dragon said, forcing himself to stand despite the agony. "We all are. But at least now everyone knows the truth." Homelander's fist caught Dragon's jaw, spinning him completely around. Dragon crashed into a fire hydrant, water erupting skyward. He could taste blood, feel bones knitting back together, but he stayed down for a moment, buying time, assessing options. There were no good options. Homelander was stronger, faster, and had powers Dragon couldn't match. Heat vision, flight, enhanced senses. Dragon's durability and healing factor gave him survival, but not victory. "I'm going to kill everyone," Homelander said conversationally, landing beside Dragon's prone form. "Shaw is already dead. I found him an hour ago, tore him apart in his hotel room. Rebecca Rayner is next. Then Butcher. Then Huey. Then every single person who ever helped you, talked to you, looked at you wrong." He grabbed Dragon's fin and yanked him upright. "And I'm going to make you watch. Every single death." Dragon headbutted him. It wasn't elegant, wasn't tactical, just pure desperate violence. The kind that came from being out of options and refusing to surrender. Homelander stumbled backward, more from surprise than pain. His nose was bleeding, actual blood. The first time Dragon had seen him injured. "You made me bleed," Homelander said, touching his face with wonder and rage. "Nobody makes me bleed." Then he really cut loose. The fight that followed was brutal, one-sided, and entirely public. News helicopters circled overhead. Live streams broadcast every moment. The world watched their greatest hero systematically destroy someone who tried to expose the truth. Homelander's heat vision carved through Dragon's shoulder, cauterizing even as it cut. Dragon's healing factor struggled to keep pace. He fought back with everything he had, decades of combat experience, enhanced strength, sheer stubborn refusal to quit. But it wasn't enough. Homelander grabbed Dragon's arm and twisted until it broke. Dragon screamed. The arm healed in seconds. Homelander broke it again. "You don't get to be the hero." Homelander shouted, punctuating each word with violence. "You're nothing. An interdimensional nobody who thought he could judge me. I'm the greatest superhero who ever lived. I'm a god." "You're a lab experiment having a tantrum," Dragon gasped through broken ribs. "And everyone watching knows it." That stopped Homelander. He looked up at the cameras, at the thousands of phones recording, at the world watching him prove every word of Rayner's article true. His expression shifted, from rage to calculation to something worse, the realization that he'd already lost. You planned this, Homelander said slowly. The leak, the fight, all of it. You wanted me to lose control on camera. Prove I'm the monster she says I am. Dragon managed a bloody smile. I just told the truth. You did the rest yourself. Homelander's heat vision flared, but before he could fire, a voice cut through the chaos. Stand down. Starlight landed between them, hands glowing with concentrated light energy. Behind her, Queen Maeve approached from the opposite direction, not to help Homelander, but to contain him. It's over, John, Maeve said quietly. The whole world is watching. You kill him now. You prove everything they're saying about you. I don't care what they think, Homelander snarled. Yes, you do, Starlight said. You've always cared. That's why this hurts so much, because they know the truth now. They know you're not a god. You're just a person with powers, same as the rest of us. For a moment, Dragon thought Homelander might kill them all anyway. The heat vision glowed brighter. His jaw clenched. Every muscle coiled for explosive violence. Then he flew away, straight up, so fast he created a sonic boom that shattered windows for 3 blocks. Silence fell over the street. Emergency services approached cautiously. Starlight knelt beside Dragon, hands checking his injuries. Can you move? She asked. Everything hurts, Dragon admitted. But yeah, healing factor is working. Good. Starlight helped him sit up. Because we need to run. Homelander's not done. Neither is Vought. They'll come for all of us. Queen Maeve stood over them, arms crossed. She's right. I just bought you maybe an hour. After that, Vought's legal and tactical teams mobilize. You'll be labeled terrorists, domestic threats, everything they need to justify killing you. Why help us? Dragon asked. Maeve's smile was bitter. Because I'm tired too. Tired of lying, of pretending, of being Vought's puppet. That story? It's the first honest thing anyone said about us in 20 years. I'm not letting them bury it with your corpse. A black SUV screeched to a halt nearby. The door opened to reveal behind the wheel, Frenchie riding shotgun, and Huey in the back. Need a lift? Butcher's voice called from inside. Because the whole bloody world just saw you take a beating for telling the truth, and I figure that earns you a spot on the team. Dragon looked at Starlight, then at Maeve, then at the wreckage surrounding them. Evidence of Vought's fury written in blood and broken concrete. What about you? Dragon asked Starlight. I'm coming with you, she said firmly. I'm done being their mascot. Maeve shook her head. I'm staying. Someone needs to be inside when this all collapses. Feed you information. Sabotage their damage control. She met Dragon's eyes. Make them pay from within. Sirens were getting louder. Dragon could hear helicopters approaching. Not news crews this time, but Vought tactical units. He let Starlight help him to the SUV. Every movement was agony despite the healing. He collapsed into the back seat next to Huey, who looked at him with something between awe and terror. You actually did it, Huey said. You exposed them. Shaw did it, Dragon corrected. I just stopped protecting them. Butcher accelerated into traffic, weaving between cars with practiced ease. Well, congratulations, mate. You're officially a fugitive. Vought's going to throw everything they've got at finding us. Satellites, facial recognition, paid informants, the works. Then where are we going? Starlight asked. Somewhere they'll never think to look, Butcher said, grinning at Dragon in the rearview mirror. Your old friend Congresswoman Victoria Newman has been very interested in talking. Turns out she's been building a case against Vought for months. Just needed someone on the inside willing to testify. Dragon pulled out Shaw's flash drive from his pocket, somehow still intact despite the beating. I've got testimony, documents, video evidence, everything Vaught's been hiding for 3 decades. Then we got ourselves a proper rebellion, Butcher declared. The boys plus 2 actual soups who aren't complete cunts might just have a fighting chance. Through the SUV's rear window, Dragon watched Vought Tower recede into the distance. Somewhere up there, Madeline Stillwell was already spinning the narrative, preparing legal defenses, activating contingency plans. And Homelander was probably destroying something in impotent rage, mourning the godhood that the truth had stolen from him. Dragon's phone buzzed, his official Vought device, which he should have destroyed hours ago. One message from Homelander. I'm going to find you. I'm going to kill everyone you care about. And then I'm going to make you immortal, so you can spend eternity knowing you destroyed the only thing keeping this world safe. Sleep well, hero. Dragon turned off the phone and let it fall to the SUV floor. What now? He asked Butcher. Now. Butcher's grin turned savage. Now we take the fight to them. Vaught's wounded. Public trust is shattered. Stock prices tanking. They're vulnerable for the first time in decades. He met Dragon's eyes in the mirror. And we're going to burn them to the fucking ground. Starlight's hand found Dragon's, squeezing gently. Together. Dragon thought about Shah, dead in a hotel room for telling the truth. About the children in Vaught's labs who might finally be freed. About Homelander's manufactured godhood crumbling under the weight of exposure. He thought about the oath he'd taken in Chicago, in another dimension, in a life that felt like ancient history, to protect and serve. He'd lost his world, lost his badge, lost any illusion that heroism was simple or clean. But he'd found something else, people willing to fight impossible odds for the truth. A cause worth the cost. Together, Dragon agreed. Outside the SUV, New York City passed by, 8 million people waking up to a world where their heroes were manufactured, their safety was theater, and the truth was finally terribly visible. The war for that truth had just begun, and Dragon was done running from it. The safe house was a condemned warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, the kind of place urban development had forgotten and criminals had already picked clean. Butcher's network had established it months ago as a final fallback position, stocked with weapons, supplies, and enough surveillance equipment to monitor Vaught's response to the exposé. Dragon sat on a rusted metal chair, watching news coverage on a jury-rigged monitor setup. Every channel carried variations of the same story. Vought in crisis. Congressional hearings scheduled. FBI investigation announced. Stock price in freefall. And footage, endless footage, of Homelander beating Dragon through the streets of Manhattan, proving every accusation Rebecca Rayner had made. You're famous, said, handing Dragon a first aid kit he didn't need. The healing factor had already closed every wound, though the phantom pain lingered. Social media's calling you the whistle fin, bit on the nose, but it's trending. Great, Dragon muttered. Always wanted to be a hashtag. Starlight paced near the windows, still in her costume, looking lost. My phone won't stop ringing. Vought PR, my mom, news outlets wanting statements. They're saying I was kidnapped. That you brainwashed me. Standard playbook, Butcher said, cleaning a pistol with practiced efficiency. Discredit, divide, destroy. Vought survived scandals before, buried executives, paid off victims, made problems disappear. But this time's different. This time they can't bury the evidence because it's everywhere. Frenchie worked at a laptop, monitoring chatter across Vaught's encrypted channels. They are panicking. Internal memos flying. Stillwell has scheduled emergency board meeting. Homelander is, how you say, off the grid. No one knows where he is. That's the problem, Dragon said quietly. Homelander's not going to roll over. He's going to escalate. Find someone to blame. Make an example. As if summoning him through prophecy, every screen in the warehouse simultaneously cut to breaking news. Vought Tower under attack. The footage showed Homelander hovering above Vaught's headquarters. Heat vision carving through the building's upper floors. Explosions erupted. Glass rained down on the streets below. And Homelander's voice, amplified somehow to reach the entire city. You wanted the truth? Here's your truth. Vought made me. They created a god and then tried to control him. But I'm done being their product. I'm done playing by their rules. More heat vision. More destruction. The 99th floor, Stillwell's office, erupted in flames. Oh Christ, Butcher whispered. He's gone full scorched earth. Dragon was already moving toward the door. I have to stop him. Starlight grabbed his arm. You can't fight him alone. He'll kill you. He's killing people right now, Dragon countered. Vought employees, security, anyone in that building. I can't just watch. Then we go together, Starlight said firmly. If we're doing this, we do it as a team. Huey stepped forward, visibly terrified but resolute. I'm coming too. I'm tired of hiding while other people fight. You're not enhanced, pointed out. You'll just get killed. Maybe, Huey agreed. But Dragon risked everything to expose the truth. Least I can do is back him up when it matters. Butcher looked at his ragtag crew, a dimensional refugee with a death wish, a disillusioned soup, and a traumatized kid with more courage than sense. Then, he grabbed his gear. Fuck it, Butcher declared. Always wanted to punch Homelander in his perfect fucking face. Let's go be heroes. They arrived at Vought Tower to find the NYPD and fire department establishing perimeters while the building burned. Homelander circled above like a bird of prey, occasionally diving to carve new destruction with heat vision. They lied to you. Homelander's voice echoed across the city. Every rescue, every victory, every moment of heroism, all manufactured, all fake. But this is real. This is what a god looks like when you try to cage him. Dragon stepped into the open, arms spread. Homelander, you want someone to blame? I'm right here. Homelander's head snapped toward him. The cape billowed as he descended, landing 50 feet away with enough force to crack the pavement. His costume was scorched and torn. Blood, his own blood, streaked his face from some internal battle with himself. Malcolm, Homelander said, voice raw. Come to die, publicly? How noble. Come to give you a choice, Dragon replied. Stop this. Surrender. Face justice like a person, not a monster. Homelander laughed, a sound completely devoid of sanity. Justice? There is no justice for me. I was created in a lab, raised in isolation, trained to smile and save people who I could crush with a thought. Every moment of my existence has been a lie, and you want me to face justice. I want you to stop killing innocent people, Dragon said. There are no innocent people. Homelander screamed. Everyone knew. Stillwell, the board, the scientists, the PR teams, they all knew what I was, and they profited from the lie. And the public? They didn't want truth. They wanted comfort. They wanted to believe in heroes, so they wouldn't have to be brave themselves. Starlight stepped forward, light gathering in her palms. You're right. They lied. They used you. But burning down the building doesn't change that. It just proves them right, that you're dangerous, unstable, a weapon they were right to try to control. Then what do you suggest? Homelander demanded. Therapy? Forgiveness? Some heartfelt redemption arc where I learn to be human. I suggest you choose, Dragon said. Right now. Be the monster they made you. Or be something better. Prove that creation doesn't define destiny. Homelander looked between them, Dragon, battered but standing, Starlight, glowing with righteous determination. Even Huey and the boys, armed with conventional weapons that couldn't hurt him, but standing their ground anyway. You really think I can be better? Homelander asked, and for the first time, Dragon heard something human in his voice. Not the manufactured charm or calculated rage. Just pain. I think you can try, Dragon said. Same as the rest of us. For one fragile moment, it seemed possible. Homelander's heat vision dimmed. His shoulders slumped. The god fell away, leaving just a broken man in a cape. Then Madeline Stillwell's voice cut through the moment. Homelander, stand down. By authority of Vought International and federal mandate, you are ordered to cease hostile action immediately. She emerged from an armored vehicle, flanked by Black Noir and a full tactical squad. Behind her, mobile artillery units rolled into position, weapons designed specifically to kill enhanced individuals. Homelander's expression cycled through shock, betrayal, and finally cold fury. You brought weapons. Against me. You're destroying company property and endangering civilian lives, Stillwell said, voice steady despite the obvious fear. You forced our hand. Surrender now, and we can negotiate terms. Continue this rampage, and we will stop you with lethal force. Lethal force, Homelander repeated. You really think those toys can kill me? We know they can hurt you, Stillwell replied. The weapons are compound V-enhanced ordnance. Each round designed to penetrate enhanced durability. We'd prefer not to use them. but we will if necessary. Dragon saw it in Homelander's eyes, the final break. Whatever slim chance existed for de-escalation died when Stillwell threatened him with Vought's weapons. You're right about one thing, Homelander said quietly. I am a god, and gods don't kneel to corporations. His heat vision erupted, targeting Stillwell's position. Dragon moved without thinking. Pure cop instinct. Protect civilians, even if it costs you. He threw himself into the heat vision's path, his body absorbing the brunt while his healing factor screamed, trying to compensate. The pain was indescribable. Homelander's heat vision didn't just burn. It incinerated, melted, destroyed at a molecular level. Dragon's regeneration battled the damage in real time, cells dying and regrowing in an endless cycle of agony. But he didn't move, didn't fall, kept himself between Homelander and Stillwell. Get out of my way. Homelander screamed. No, Dragon gasped through the pain. Starlight's light blast hit Homelander from the side, disrupting his focus. The heat vision cut off. Dragon collapsed, smoke rising from catastrophic burns that were already healing. Homelander spun toward Starlight, rage incarnate. You too? Everyone I've ever known betrays me. We're not betraying you, Starlight said. We're trying to save you from yourself. Black Noir moved, silent and lethal. His blade found the gap in Homelander's costume, the one weakness Vought had engineered as insurance. The knife sank deep between ribs. Homelander looked down in shock. Noir? You. Black Noir twisted the blade, stepped back, said nothing because he never spoke. Homelander grabbed the knife, pulled it free. Blood, real blood, his blood, poured from the wound. He stared at it like he couldn't quite process that he was mortal after all. You're all the same, Homelander said quietly. Every single one of you. Users. Liars. Afraid of what I represent. He looked at Dragon, still smoking from the heat vision. You wanted a choice? Fine. I choose freedom. He flew away, not up, but laterally, disappearing into the New York skyline at supersonic speed before anyone could react. Silence fell over the scene. Dragon forced himself upright, healing factor finally catching up. Starlight helped steady him. Stillwell approached, expression unreadable. You saved my life, Stillwell said. Don't mistake that for forgiveness, Dragon replied. Everything you've done, the experiments, the cover-ups, the lies, it all ends now. Does it? Stillwell gestured to the burning tower, the tactical teams, the weapons designed to kill soups. Homelander's gone rogue. Our most valuable asset is now our greatest threat. Vought needs heroes more than ever. We need you. I'm not your hero, Dragon said. I'm testifying against you. All of you. Shah's evidence, my eyewitness accounts, everything I've seen. Congressional hearings start next week, and I'm going to tell them exactly what Vought International really is. Stillwell's smile was tired. Then, I suppose we'll see you in court. But Malcolm? Homelander's still out there. Wounded, humiliated, completely unstable. Whatever happens to Vought, he's everyone's problem now. Yours especially. He won't stop hunting you. She walked away, Black Noir following in silence. The tactical teams withdrew. Emergency services moved in to fight the fires and search for survivors. Butcher approached Dragon and Starlight. Well, that could have gone worse. Homelander's in the wind, pointed out. Probably planning revenge. Vought's compromised but not destroyed. And we're still fugitives. But the truth is out, Huey said. That has to count for something. Dragon looked at the burning tower, Vought's symbol of power reduced to smoke and ash. He thought about Shah, dead for telling the truth. About the children in the labs who might finally be freed. About Homelander, somewhere in the city, deciding whether to be the monster or something more. It counts for everything, Dragon said. The truth is the foundation. What we build on it, that's the hard part. Congresswoman Victoria Newman arrived in an unmarked sedan, stepping out with the confidence of someone holding winning cards. Officer Dragon, Miss January, gentlemen, I believe we have much to discuss about the future of superhero oversight in America. Dragon extended his hand. Let's talk about accountability. Real accountability. Not Vaught's version. Newman's smile was sharp. Music to my ears. As they drove away from the burning tower, Dragon looked back one last time. Somewhere up there, in Vaught's destroyed offices, were files on dimensional physics. Research that might someday send him home. But home felt like a dream from another life. This world, broken, corrupt, struggling towards something better. This was where he was needed. Where the fight mattered. He'd come here by accident. Stayed out of necessity. But now he chose to stay. Chose to fight. Chose to be the hero this world desperately needed. Even if it cost him everything. The war against Vought International had just begun. And Malcolm Dragon, interdimensional cop, reluctant hero, and the man who'd stood against a god, was ready for whatever came next. The congressional hearings lasted 3 months. Dragon testified for 18 hours across multiple sessions, detailing every crime, every cover-up, every child injected with Compound V in Vaught's pursuit of profit. Shaw's flash drive provided irrefutable evidence. Starlight corroborated from her position inside the Seven. Even Queen Maeve, still embedded in Vought, leaked documents that proved systematic criminal enterprise. Vought International's stock crashed. CEO resignations cascaded. Criminal indictments were filed against 47 executives. The Seven was officially disbanded pending federal investigation. But Homelander remained free, a wounded god stalking the shadows, occasionally appearing to commit acts of random violence or desperate heroism, as if still deciding what he wanted to be. Dragon established himself as an independent operator, working with Congresswoman Newman's new Federal Superhuman Affairs Bureau. No costume, no corporate sponsor, just a cop doing the job in a world that finally demanded accountability from its heroes. Starlight joined him, reclaiming her real name, Annie January, and using her platform to advocate for victims of Compound V experimentation. The boys continued their work from the shadows, hunting rogue soups and exposing corruption wherever Vaught's influence remained. And every night, Dragon stood on rooftops overlooking the city, watching over people who were learning to be their own heroes rather than relying on manufactured gods. He'd never found a way home. The dimensional rift research died with Vaught's funding. But standing there, watching dawn break over New York City, Dragon realized something profound. Home wasn't a place. It was a purpose. And his purpose, protecting people, seeking truth, standing between innocence and monsters that transcended dimensions. He'd come to this world broken and lost. He'd leave it, if he ever left, having made a difference. That was enough. That was everything.